see how you get on and whatever. And I sort of dabbled with it, and then all of a sudden there was just like this one moment where I was like, fuck it, I can't even remember what it was. It was something that that was it. There was a period of like a week solid where I was like, oh, do you know what, it'd be really good if you got like K20 metering or something. And then the following day he was like, there you go, there's an update with K20 metering. I was like, damn, that's good. So I was like, do you know what would be really good? I was like, what pisses me off is because as an engineer I want all of my channels to default to minus 10 dB because I don't want my master channel going red. And it always bugged me because before that I'd use Ableton or Cubase or whatever, and you'd load a new channel and then load a plugin in that channel and just hit a key on your keyboard and then go, Jesus, that's 10 dB louder than everything else, you know. So again, stuff like that with Bitwig, where I'd be like, oh, do you know what would be really good is if you could just set your default channel gain. He was like, done, there you go, what else? I was like, oh, this is good. So it's literally like my dream DAW, just because I just managed to be able to wangle them in there. Basically,
it's almost like it's just like self-customizable, isn't it? I mean, I've asked Cubase for about 10 years to get rid of that freaking dongle that we have to
They're
have.
Not still using a dongle, are
they? They are still using the dongle, and anytime I've mentioned it on Twitter, they've always done some quip. Like they I think they quoted Bane about the darkness or something. I was like, what? Just get rid of it. It's like people crack security is not that, like, it's not that bad. Like, it's good. Like, even if you have a dongle, I have a copy of Cubase 5 cracked in case of emergencies, like I lose my USB and they go, oh no, you have to buy a new copy, or we're going to go through a whole process. Just in case I really have to do something, I have a cracked copy. And it's literally emulated dongle on it. Like, it's not like it's not security, it can't be broken. Like, just get rid of it.
No, that's it. Yeah, and pretty much anything is crackable if you want it enough, you know. That's a massive mug you got there.
Yeah.
Is that tea or coffee?
That's coffee right there. That's the morning wake up. The afternoon
that is
wake
a
up
coffee. Jesus,
it's almost as big as my head.
Yeah. So I started on Cubase. I started on Ataris back in the day, but I think the first thing I had at home was Cubasics, I think it was called.
Cubasis.
There was Cubasis, which came a bit later, I think, and Cubasics was. So, because I could be wrong here, but I think Cubasis was Cubase Audio. So that was when they introduced the ability to record audio in and out of Cubase. So it was pre-audio, and it was only MIDI controller, basically. Right. The only thing you could do at the time was just trigger MIDI keyboards, and it was just that was basically it. Yeah. And then they introduced Cubase VST, and that was like this whole game changer then. And then I left the world of Steinberg not long after that. I kind of carried on with Cubase VST, and then I moved to Nuendo, just because I had to do some sort of video for a project on video, sorry. And then I know there were things like, I'm guessing you still have these issues with Steinberg, but I'm sure it was Cubase. Basically, that you'd spent whatever it was, 200-400 quid on getting Cubase in the first place, and then they were like, oh, do you want to export by MP3? Do you? Oh, that's another 50 quid. And it's
really?
Like,
no, that's not. I don't think that's extra now. I'm pretty sure I've never had that issue. I don't think so. No.
That wound me up so much. They did the same thing with Wavelab as well. You basically had to install. Oh, what was it? But it was basically like an additional license just to be able to export as MP3, and it was just like.
Was that back in the day though?
Well, I mean, certainly for Wavelab, we're not going that far back. Maybe 2010.
Yeah, see that doesn't really make sense. 11 years ago. Yeah, I mean, but even then, like, I started way before that, and I was on Cubase. 2011, 2012, I think. Okay. I started on Nuendo 4.
I couldn't even tell you what version I was on, to be honest.
Yeah. No idea. I mean, I've never known them to be extras, anything like that. I mean,
Wavelab definitely was. I think must have been Wavelab 3 or 4.
Right.
I
mean, I started on Reason.
MP3.
I started on Reason.
Yeah, how was that?
It was okay, just a bit. At the time, it was very contained within itself. It was Reason was you could only just use Reason kind of thing.
That's right.
Which was cool.
You couldn't. You could. I think you could sample, couldn't you, in the built-in sampler, and then but you couldn't actually like treat audio files, if I remember rightly. Is that right?
I couldn't. You couldn't go and get Massive and bring it in. Let's just put it that way. You couldn't get any external VSTs. Were just, it's a no-go. And for years they didn't. I don't think they denied it. I just think they just tried to keep everything within reason and tried to maybe buy VSTs within reason, so that you had to go to reason to use those VSTs. But everyone kept complaining. Right. Not surprised, because I was one of them, and I ended up leaving and going to Cubase eventually because it was just too. It was too restricted. Like I couldn't go and mess around. I like downloading random VSTs and messing with them to get some weird sounds.
You're a Windows user, right?
I am a Windows guy.
Yeah.
Mac as well, but only for the reliable laptop touring.
Right,
buddy.
Okay.
So
yeah. How's that going these days then? Because clearly you're not touring in the middle of a pandemic. What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm very doing nothing at the moment. I mean, it's just the last show I played was, in what's the date today? February the 9th. So in almost exactly a week, it will have been an entire year since I played on tour. I played one show which was in Germany in September last year.
Right.
At some very weird rave in Cologne in Germany. Okay. In an arena which holds 20,000 people, and there was 2,000 people in it. It was quite strange, and it was. But the social distancing was actually really good there. So I was very surprised. But that's the only show I've played. Right. Apart from that, I was on tour. I was literally on tour for like the biggest tour of my life. It was my own headline tour, and I did an entire world tour. I went from, I think I started in Hungary.
Yeah, I remember now you've said that. I remember you saying that you were super proud it was your first headline tour. Shit,
I've done the headline tours, but this was the biggest headline tour, and this was a proper world tour. This literally, I started in Hungary, I went through to Germany, Holland, Belgium. I'd even did I do UK? I forget if I did UK. And then I went to America, and then I did, and then I went to Australia, New Zealand, and then went up to Japan, and then I did China, and then there was so many countries in between I was doing, and then I went home, and then about maybe a week after I got back from doing 6 weeks on the road around the world, went back to America to do a few more shows. And then I remember I had a month off because I was so tired. But my July was rammed to summer festivals. It was going to be a huge one, big earner. I was ready. I was like, cool, this is it. I'm going to buy a house. Everything's good.
Yeah,
that got blown completely out. And I'm stuck at home doing Twitching.
So how did it happen then? I mean, from your perspective, obviously I don't want this podcast to be all about the pandemic, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I think
it's important to us, isn't it?
It's fair to put some focus on it. And also, let's be honest, this might not be the last pandemic we ever face. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of feel like from a music industry perspective, I feel like there's a lot we need to change and a lot we need to learn from this in terms of moving forward, because if it does happen again, I don't think any of us are really willing to sort of bend over and do all of this all over again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not if we can
avoid it.
There's not enough of us that can sustain ourselves long enough to get through a pandemic. It's like, I'm doing okay, and I'm lucky I had savings, let's put it that way. I've been doing Twitch, and it's not exactly been paying everything bills wise. It's taken a large chunk off, but it's not. It's slowly eating through my savings, and But if this was to happen again, I don't know, mate. It's a dodgy one.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're exactly the same. Where you sort of every time you log into Facebook, there's another one down. There's a lot of people out there in a lot of worse situations than us.
Most definitely. Yeah.
But so how did it sort of transpire for you? Because if you were mid-tour, at what point was there, where'd you call it a day? Where'd you go, right, this isn't going to happen anymore? Was it the venues cancelling you, or was it you cancelling them, or was it the lack of travel, or was it your manager going, that's it, go to bed?
I'm trying to remember. It was weird. Because
am I right in thinking you've got 360 management, right? So
no, I have Maximum Boost. Yeah, I'm with Maximum Boost. Okay. It's the same management as Flux Pavilion, Dr. P, and lots of people like that.
But that's just purely tour management, then, is it, or is it?
No, they're everything. That's everything. So it is 360. That's what I mean by 360. Not as in because there are a management company called 360 on there. That's what I was
360.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, no, sorry. I mean 360 as in a 360 deal, meaning they cover everything from your releases to your promos to your merch to you name it, basically. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I'm guessing someone from there kind of basically went, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. I think the first realization was when we did our first lockdown, and everything was so, no one knew what was going on, and I didn't really have anything around March when we had our first lockdown. So I was like, okay, this is strange, but I guess we'll have this month lockdown, and hopefully everything will be gone, and we can. I mean, the naivety of that was that's kind of what I was hoping. Yeah,
you know? I think that's fair though. You know, back in March, and I think certainly from our British perspective, I think our government were being so fucking blasé about the whole thing.
Yes,
I think it was fair to just assume that it was gonna, it was gonna be back to normal come April.
Yeah, or at least to cut down enough of it for it to be manageable, and then eventually we can get rid of it.
Yeah,
but it's like we didn't know as much as the government didn't know. You know, they were running into it the same as us. So we all had this expectation, I think, and that's how it.
I think unfortunately the government probably did know a bit more than they were letting on as well. Because if you remember, I remember, and I don't want to make this podcast about slagging off governments either, but
I'm willing. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that no one can correct me on this. I'm pretty sure that the general vibe of their messaging right at the beginning through January and February at the very least was masks don't work, there's no point wearing a mask, don't bother, it's all good, it'll be gone by Easter or whatever Trump famously said. I think Boris Johnson was essentially echoing that whole sort of there's nothing to worry about, let's just carry on, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it's an old school mentality, isn't it? It's I think it's that he thinks that it's not going to be something that lasting, and he thinks it's going to be something that's going to fly by, and we're all going to be fine. And if we just do one lockdown, that will cut most of the ecosystem of the virus out, and we'll end up being able to manage it and get rid of it. I think that was what they thought would happen.
That's what confuses me though, because him and every other government in the world have teams of scientists who will have been sat there going, no, that's not how it works, mate. Like, no, we need to really dial things back here or whatever. And as much as I'd love to say that there was some deep conspiracy that, some multi-billionaire was paying them to say stupid shit, but I can't see any benefit to that. I can't see why. So I can't work out where it all sort of went down the shitter. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't work out why he would have, okay, the mask thing, I can kind of go, well, the NHS clearly had an issue trying to get masks at the time. I remember that, and they were struggling to source all the PPE and everything. And, I get that. So I can kind of understand that the government would have said, oh yeah, don't wear a mask, because that way we're not buying up all the N95 masks and then the NHS get access to theirs. I can kind of, I can let that slip. But the whole approach of it'll be over in an instant, and I remember he was bragging, wasn't he, that he'd gone to a hospital and seen COVID patients and was shaking hands with them, and he was sort of saying that in a public statement, and you're just thinking, why would you? I mean, first of all, why would you do that? But even if you did do that, how are you that fucking dumb that you're now blurting it out on national TV? Like,
that's top level naivety. Like, he could have done that when he wasn't prime minister, and we would have gone, you're an idiot. But because he's prime minister, we're like, you're literally the biggest idiot that's ever lived. Like, you have to set the example. Like, you were bad enough as the, I don't know, what was he? He was like the world
Foreign
relations
minister,
guy or something.
Wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, something like that. Some crazy stuff. If you do it then, it's a bit less on you, because you don't have to set an example. You're a guy that does something within the cabinet. But when you're the main man of the country, and you're going, hey, how's it going? Hey. It's, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Be like, okay, well, everyone, we will lock in. You lock in, I'll lock in. I'll just, don't go outside. It's like a teacher. It's like these are impressionable kids. And the teacher's got to set the example. It's the same thing with Boris Johnson, We
and
obviously live our own lives,
but and to carry that rant on about impression, I think for me, I'm a stickler for the rules generally. I think other than speed limits on a motorway, I think I generally stick to the rules in life.
Yeah.
But I think the moment that whole Dominic Cummings thing happened, and what did he claim he was doing? He was testing his eyesight by going on a 4-hour car journey on his wife's birthday to a castle or something.
Something crazy, yeah.
The moment that whole thing came out was the moment I just kind of went, because at the time, this was, so when was this? This must have been early to mid-July, because my son's first birthday was August 10th, and we had been planning, because we were supposed to be coming out of lockdown at that point, so we'd been planning, right, well, we'll have in-laws and, just in-laws, basically, over for his birthday, and we'll just have some food in the garden, whatever, and sort of try and social distance as best as we can.
Yeah.
And then they introduced the tier system, which meant that here in the Northwest we weren't allowed to have anyone in our garden. And then the whole Dominic Cummings thing happened, and I was sort of looking at it going, I'm sorry, but I'm having our in-laws over for my son's birthday. Like, I fuck the rules now. If he can get away with all of that and not even getting into trouble with his boss, then I'm sorry, but I'm not paying fines and shit for having my son's birthday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that sort of that really sort of spiraled from that point onwards, really.
Where is it in the Northwest you're from?
Well, right now, Manchester.
Oh, you manually got okay.
Yeah, because I'm actually from Wales.
Manchester.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, random. Yeah, I used to have a girlfriend from Manchester. Well, she lived between Manchester and Oldham in a place called Chadderton, which apparently is a ghetto.
I don't know it. Oh, is it?
It wasn't a fun place to hang around, let's just put it that way. But I used to spend a lot of my time in Manny. But I live in Bournemouth, which was low tier. But up until literally recently, when they pretty much made everyone tier 4 or tier 3 or whatever it is. We were tier 2, pretty much. We were one of the lowest tiers, but there was such a surge in pretty much everywhere that.
Yeah.
And the problem with our surges is that we've got a nice beach, so everyone goes, lockdown's over, let's go to Bournemouth and go to the beach. Exactly. No, okay. So let me address that bit.
I lived in Bournemouth as well. So when was it? 2003 or 4 until 2007, 6 or 7. I lived in Bournemouth. So I know that they'd sort of sneakily taken the photos at an angle that made it look far busier than it was.
But you know that the picture that was being shared around on the media wasn't from that moment. That was from 2 years ago.
It not? Oh,
no,
shit.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It was propaganda. So that picture, because we someone I know found that picture on the internet, and it was a post by some blog from 2 years previous on an insanely busy summer holiday. And I had friends who were actually at the beach who took pictures, and it was at least half the people that was there. So.
Right.
But I think it was propaganda. I think it could have been propaganda just to kind of wake people up, like just to be like, people are being stupid. They're going to the beach when they probably shouldn't be, like they don't need to be there. And they probably just wanted to share something and be like, oh, the government's messing up everything, and there's too many people at the beach, and everyone should sit at home. I'm kind of all in for that kind of propaganda if that's how it was transpiring. But if it was literally just to point the finger,
I think.
Then,
but I think the government have been quite clever in the last 7 or 8 months solid, where they've sort of purposefully made us blame each other rather than the government. Do you know what I mean?
Which what we should be doing, really.
They did the whole, look at all these people crowding on the beach, aren't they disgusting? And then look at all these BLM protests, aren't they disgusting, rubbing shoulders with each other? And it's got to a point now where, look at this one household having 15 people at a party, and I'm thinking, while all those things are wrong and against the rules and whatever, I don't think that's really the cause of the spread, especially when they at least until last month they had the schools and everything still open and colleges do you know what I mean? And it's like, well, you can't blame that one household for having 15 people. That's not the cause of this pandemic. That's not what's sending Britain down the pan. It wasn't people going to the beach, because the people going to the beach would have been in a bright sunlit day and social distancing fairly easily, especially in Bournemouth Beach. There's plenty of room. What is it? 6 miles of golden sand is their slogan. So
literally,
there's plenty of room for people to social distance there. I think you would struggle even in somewhere as nice as Bournemouth, to actually fill the beach shoulder to shoulder, you know.
Yeah, it's usually the Bournemouth section all the way up to, say, Boscombe and maybe Sandbanks at the very worst is when it would be absolutely packed. But even then, that's what, 3-4 miles. There's still so much room.
At least, yeah.
I think the whole using the benefit of getting everyone to point at each other is exactly what we need, because we're like rebellious children in a room of other rebellious children, where the teacher going, stop, don't do that, and all the kids are just going, throwing everything around the room. Yeah, literally, this is exactly. I think that's the problem is we don't want to be told. People don't want to be told by the government what to do. Obviously, no one listens to the government. It's obvious. We only listen to laws because you don't want to go to jail. That's the point of the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you're having teachers go, stop that, don't do that, and everyone's literally just setting fire to the room and just like throwing paper airplanes around and stuff like that. That's exactly what we're doing. But we need them to make us start going at each other's throats, because no one's going to listen to the government. People don't care.
What I've been saying all along is we need to introduce this mentality of make the no's taboo. That's my thing is let's cover up our noses constantly with a mask. Do you know what I mean? And make it make it equivalent to having your willy hanging out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because
sure.
you walk around a supermarket at the minute, and the number of people who've just got basically a chin strap, basically.
Old people too, by the way. Old people too.
Particularly old people. I'm hesitant. Well, I'm not hesitant to say, because it's fucking true.
It's literally true. Yeah,
I don't like to say it, but it is mostly old people.
Yeah,
like the number of times I've been in a supermarket, whatever, and I'll crouch down to pick something up, and some old guy is literally just breathing down my neck, trying to reach over me to grab something. I'm sort of turning, there's no mask, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're the one that's going to die here, not me. What's wrong with you?
This is for your benefit, mate. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the problem. I think people have got too comfortable with the whole mask thing, thinking that it's the be all and end all of the virus, I think.
Hey guys, I just thought I'd take this moment to let you know that this podcast is powered entirely by Patreon. So if you'd like to support the creation of more episodes like this one, then please head to patreon.com/Dom Kane, where you can access loads of goodies from sample packs to music downloads, and you'll even get exclusive access to episodes of this podcast before anyone else. So head to patreon.com/Dom Kane, and I'll see you there. Now on with the show.
The mask is to help prevent,
and I think
hence the social distancing. But that's the problem is that because they think now that masks are becoming more common, and now that people are starting to live with their masks, that it's okay to social. Do you remember when we first got out of lockdown and they were saying you have to be 2 meters away? I would stand literally 2 meters away from someone. I don't do it as much now because I still social distance and stuff, but not 2 meters. I don't do 2 meters. It's kind of ridiculous, especially when you're walking around a supermarket, going down the milk aisle, just like sort of edging past someone, like.
Yeah.
Just trying to get past someone just to get milk.
If you remember when they opened up the first, or when the first lockdown happened, before they introduced the mandatory, not mandatory mask wearing type thing, everybody was social distancing, especially in supermarkets. I remember the number of times, I'd be coming to the end of an aisle or whatever, and some lady would be coming around the corner, and she'd literally leap out of the way as if you were like, some sort of leper. And
exactly.
It was a really weird feeling, and it was really spooky. But then the moment they introduced mask wearing, all of a sudden, all of those 2 meters apart signs just came down, and everyone was just like, I don't give a shit.
They even removed it to 1 meter, didn't they? They even removed it to 1 meter. They said 1 meter was okay, and I don't understand how that's a thing if 2 meters was.
Well, I think that was something to do with pubs and restaurants, wasn't it? And then, of course, they did the whole fucking eat out to help out bollocks. And, again, we talk about pointing fingers at the public. For fuck's sake, that eat out to help out. What was that about? I didn't take advantage
out to help
of it,
out, keep the fucking virus around. That's what that was. Eat out to keep the virus around.
Mental. In hindsight, that was absolutely batshit crazy. And I have no problem with anyone watching this podcast or whatever if you did the eat out to help out thing, because your government was telling you it was okay to do that. So why wouldn't you have done it?
I think I did it once in a steak restaurant, but it was I think the rules at a steak restaurant were literally to wait at the door. We'll guide you always wear a mask. You know, they were very early on it. So I think I did it once, and I think it was because we just come out of lockdown. I think I was just kind of sick of my house. I think it's the same for everyone at this point. I was just sick of my house. I wanted to get out.
Yeah.
Because you think about the lockdowns we're doing now, that we can go out, we can still go out, we can still go to the shop, we can still exercise locally, things like that. Like, you can just make sure that you can stay at home as much as you can unless you have to go out, which is one. I haven't even gone to the studio. My studio is 15 minutes on a bike.
I was going to ask what's going on with the studio now then as well, because you were getting rid of that, weren't you, at one point? Or
the studio?
Or am I? Yeah, wasn't your lease up or something? And
this is
I could be talking about an old studio.
Yeah, it's an old studio. Yeah, so Jesus. I've had I think maybe 2 years I've been in the studio now. But I was in an old building,
right?
Which was due to be knocked down, and it had been threatened to be knocked down by the government for a long time, because Bournemouth right now is, I don't know if you know this, it's literally uni central. It's just students.
Oh, is it?
Everywhere, literally. Well, in the Lansdowne area of Bournemouth. In the Lansdowne area of Bournemouth, they've built so much infrastructure for students to live that it's literally becoming ridiculous at this point. So they've been threatening to knock down the building I was in for the whole time, kind of thing. And they eventually got there. The landlord was like, I was on stupidly cheap rent. I think it was like it was like £150 for a room with all bills covered. Like, it was crazy. And he came in and was like, it's finally happening. And they've been threatening to do it for like the last 9 years. Like, that's how long it's been going on. So we had to get out, and was kind of stuck at one point, didn't know what to do with it. And we found I share a building with this company called Audio Feed. They kind of provide the sound systems for like Boomtown and stuff like that.
Okay,
so they basically they've rented an entire massive industrial unit which has these like sort of partitions inside of it, and then they've rented it out to a couple of us for studios. Nice. I built a studio inside of it, but mine's kind of on a floor up. But the work that had to go into that studio was a bit ridiculous, because the partitions they built were made out of such thin MDF that it was actually dangerous to walk on the floor. Like, the floor bowed every time you walked on it. And I would have gone through downstairs into my other mate's studio. So I had to build, like, basically my studio is on stilts, essentially, because one's one floor up. So we had to buy an insane amount of reinforced fire forged wood or some crazy stuff. Like, it's mega strong stuff. But basically my studio's on stilts, and I think my studio in the end, after about maybe 8 months of it's still not finished, because the guy who's supposed to be finishing it has been dabbling between other jobs and been too busy, but my studio ended up costing nearly around 20k to build. That's obviously without all my equipment inside of it. So that was, timing, dude. Like, spending 20 grand on a studio and then lockdown happening is like, oh god, it's like everything at once. Like, why?
I kind of lucked out myself with that, because where I am now, I'm in a little cabin in the garden, basically, that I built, and that was always the plan. So I've been in this house like 4 or 5 years now, I think, and the plan originally was to basically build a nice structure of some sort, a wooden cabin, a log cabin type thing in the garden. And so I'd been working in the back room of the house, and everything was sort of getting tighter and tighter, and I've been putting squirreling money aside and whatever to build the cabin. And just, I'll be honest, it was more by luck than judgment, but as the pandemic and everything hit and lockdown happened, and I got a fairly good, a higher than usual royalty statement through, and I was looking at it going, I think this is it. This has taken me over the line that I needed to be able to build the cabin and whatever. And I sort of sat there and thought, do I need to live off this money? Is my career going down the pan? And then I'm thinking, but then again, during lockdown is probably the best time to build this thing in the garden, because it was all just me on my own building it. So I took the plunge and did it, and thank fuck I did now.
Exactly.
It's been a savior.
It's a dodgy one, isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty lucky to finally have a studio space, because I was fretting about that. Like, I live in an attached house right now. I could not blast the music. I can't even talk that loud. Like, if
really?
I stream it late at night, like between 10:30 and say 3 a.m. because I have an American audience. So when I'm doing Twitch streaming, I can't go like try and do my entertainment like when I'm playing games or music or anything like that. So it's a tough situation to be in, but it's just, thank God I have a studio, because otherwise, just that's my kind of like the setup I have now is that I make everything at home, now, and I use them on these Bear Dynamics, which I'm a fan of, not a fan of. I'm a kind of love-hate.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've got a couple of different. I've got the 770s, the 880s, and whatever down here.
Yeah, I've got the 990 Pros, 250 ohm ones. They're okay. They're just, it's literally, the high end is literally just piercing your ears to death. So yeah, I have Sonarworks to combat that, but it doesn't combat it quite right. It does sound a bit odd when I've done mixdowns, which have sounded perfect in the Sonarworks. They sounded really dodgy on, say, my monitors in the studio, and I know them pretty well.
With being in the dubstep drum and bass scene, I suppose the high end is almost more important than the bass.
In dubstep
when it comes to your mix,
it's ridiculous. The brightness in dubstep right now is the level of balance saturation in the top end is just like everyone. It's so important now. I don't understand why. I literally understand it.
I mean, see, that's kind of a weird thing for me, because being A, British, and B, an idiot, like I don't follow. So I mean, I guess I'm technically in the house scene, whatever that is. But I've never followed scenes. I've never followed trends necessarily, and I guess for me as a producer, I'm only very little known anyway. So I don't have hordes of fans who are sort of keeping up with trends and stuff. And so from my perspective, I kind of saw dubstep, like, I loved what I'm going to call the original dubstep scene. I could be completely wrong here, but before I lived in Bournemouth, I lived in Bristol, and for me, Bristol is kind of the birthplace of things like dub and a lot of the UK reggae scene, even certainly drum and bass and stuff. So I was always sort of aware of stuff happening there, and like you'd go to room 2 or 3 in any of the clubs like Lakota or whatever, and there'd always be this just mad dubby vibe going on. So that was my introduction to what I'm now going to call dubstep, even though maybe it wasn't dubstep at the time, but it was kind of the birth of it. And then I remember, like, Christ, 2010-ish, is that when, let's be honest, Skrillex, I think, is the big wave of dubstep.
Yeah, that's probably like
certainly
late
from
10.
my perspective. Yeah,
it's late 10. So I think Skrillex thing was.
Yeah, and I kind of heard nothing but dubstep for the preceding probably couple of years.
That's exactly.
And
what
then,
happened,
and then certainly for the UK scene, just nobody mentioned dubstep ever again. That was it. It was gone. And I remember, like, I was aware that dubstep continued, and I think, again, I apologise for my naivety here, but from my perspective, it kind of, in the UK, it just went back to the Bristol scene and the London scene and did its dubbier stuff and sort of fell back on its original roots and went good again. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah,
and
that's pretty similar to what happened, honestly.
Okay, so I'm not too far off then.
No, I mean,
because it's interesting sort of hearing you talk about doing world tours and stuff, and I'm like, shit, man, it's still big all over the world. Like, and I'll give you an example from my perspective in the sort of house scene as well. Is do you remember ATB? The track 9 p.m. Till I Come. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
late 90s big trance anthem.
Very much.
Like, ATB is one of these guys that every year from whenever that was, 1998, 99, something like that. Every year, the DJ Mag Top 100 DJ list, ATB would be on that list somewhere. And I couldn't name you a single other song that he's done, because in the UK, trance was amazing for about 2.5 years, and then it just disappeared completely. And I think I feel like that's what the UK does with music scenes, is it goes, this is the one, fuck off 2 minutes later. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, exactly. No, that's old shit now.
So when I'm doing any interviews with people about what happened with dubstep, I know exactly what happened with dubstep, but I know exactly what happened with dubstep in a grand sense as well as a UK sense. So this is the problem with the UK, is they take something on, they want to be the forefront of the underground scene or blowing up a genre. That's exactly what the UK does. And if you look at all all the biggest UK, all the biggest genres are from the UK essentially. Dubstep came from the UK, drum and bass come from the UK. House is UK. Well, no, house isn't. So house is born in America, right? That's the.
Well, it was
Chicago.
So it was born in the New York, Chicago kind of thing, but America quickly stamped it out, and they were like, no, that's for black people, gay people, and atheists. We hate all three of those things.
That's so American.
Go away.
Dude.
Do you know what I mean? That's
America.
essentially America's view. That's communist music, and off it went. Whereas Britain went, yeah, we'll have some of this.
Yeah,
good
so that's
music,
what the UK does. The UK
drugs, let's do it.
UK grab something and they go, "This is the best thing we've ever heard. We're going to blow this up," and it becomes literally a pandemic. Like that's exactly what happened with dubstep. 2009 is when I joined. 2010 is when it blew up, and the whole thing went from literally I was playing shows quite a bit around the UK, sort of beginning of 2010 for almost no money because I wanted to get my name out there, and I was just ready to go out and do the thing I need to do to build myself up. And we literally went from I was touring around the UK on trains constantly, pretty much barely making any money, to straight away being on 200 quid a show, everything paid for,
right?
Things like that. And that blew my mind because back when I was playing drum and bass, like I was lucky to get 50 quid, I can't lie. But the problem with dubstep is it became so ingrained in everyone's life aggressively for 2 to 3 years. Everyone got absolutely sick of it. And the problem with the UK is they take on a genre, they make it the best thing in the world, and then when it finally blows up and gets to a level where it's really commercial and worldwide, the UK goes, no, mate, not for me, it's not underground enough, and then they move on. So they went straight back to drum and bass, or they tried to make garage a bigger thing, or house was the big blow up. So that's the problem with the UK, and
the deep house was the next
Disclosure.
big thing
Disclosure was
UK.
killing it. Disclosure was smashing it.
Yeah.
They were starting to bring back Oxide and Neutrino and DJ Luck and
and then
MC
2 years
Neat,
later, fuck off.
That's what I mean. So this is what they do. So they disregard everything. I mean, if you look at bassline is now a big thing. Bassline was a joke in 2009. People were loving grime.
Yeah.
Grime was massive. When they were doing Lord of the Mics in say 2010, 11. I forget which one it was. It might have been Lord of the Mics 3. They were battling bassline MCs on there, making fun of a dead genre. Okay. They were literally making fun of a dead genre. They were ripping into them, and it's massive right now. And it's because the UK goes, amazing, disregard, it's too big now. Amazing, disregard, it's too big now. Like house, house is always going to be around in the UK. It's just that universal platform that
it's the thing we all fall back on. I think,
it's the simplicity and everything like that. House will always be big. So the house I have no problem with. House has always petered. It will just blow up and then it'll peter again. It was the same thing. Dubstep's gone bang, all dang, and it's going completely dead. And then it will start coming back a little bit, and then it will die, and then one day it will come back again.
How did that affect you then? Because obviously, from being a British DJ. I mean, I guess America sucked you in, did it?
Yes,
pretty quickly. And I'm guessing. And also, before you answer that, how did you? Is there any moment that sort of you felt made your career and put you at the front of the wave? Like, I'll give you an example. For me, for example, I feel like I was the absolute perfect age for the internet revolution. So my career, in fact, someone reminded me of this the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but it was, funnily enough, in Bournemouth. So I'd been living in Bristol a few years, and I'd been DJing, doing whatever local parties I possibly could, whatever. And I was an internet nerd. As a kid, I mean, the internet didn't exist until I was about 16, I think. And then I sort of discovered the internet and thought, this is the future. And I remember making a HTML page just so that I could do music reviews, which then gave me an excuse to then contact record labels and go, hey, I do reviews, do you want to send me some music? And they'd send me promos. And then so I sort of did the whole DJ scene, and then moved to Bournemouth and did the DJing scene there, and played as many of the bars and venues as I could there. But at the same time, I then started DJing for Proton Radio, which was an online radio station, and it was pretty much the only place you could go online to hear proper underground electronic music at the time, which meant I had instant access to a global audience. And then within about 2 months of that, I remember getting flown to was it Portugal, I think, was one of the first ones, and was offered like 70 quid or whatever it was. And I was like, holy shit, wait, you're going to pay for my flight and hotel, feed me, and give me money to play music? Like, what's that about? So for me, I'm kind of eternally grateful that I was a nerd at the right age, and by chance I was one of the first people to sort of broadcast on the internet. So would you say that, was it by chance, or was it something you sort of aimed at with the whole dubstep scene and the explosion and being British? And
no, it was definitely my entire career. I have never claimed anything about aiming anything, because I was a drum and bass producer before dubstep. I was always aiming, and my goal was to be a drum and bass producer. Drum and bass was my love, my passion. Every idol in production was from drum and bass. Taxman, Dillinger, Noisy, everyone like that. They were all my idols. I wanted to make it in drum and bass. Dubstep only happened because my friend had a radio show in early 2009, sort of late 2008, and he was getting a little bit of an audience with it, and he asked me to write some tracks for his show, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll give it a go. And I wrote a couple of tracks I thought were okay, a bit weird, but they were kind of my style from D&B, but slowed down in a sense. And he said that everyone was freaking out to my music, and I was like, what? Is that a good thing? Like, he's like, yeah, mate, they're going crazy for it. And I kind of disregarded it. I was like, I'm thinking, it's probably like 3 people going, wow, cool. Like, and I was thinking, it's probably just a load of people don't care. And then I wrote a few more tracks for him, and I gave one of these tracks to Chrissy Chris. And he was kind of an advocate early on for dubstep. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think a lot of people point to people like, I mean, rightfully so, Marianne Hobbs is the fucking grandmother of dubstep. No one should ever touch that. But if you're talking in the more earlier sort of the build of dubstep, when everyone was more energetic, because obviously it was a lot more stripped back in the day. If you're talking about more energetic, people like Mr. Jam get the credit, and Zane Lowe, but Chrissy Chris deserves probably more credit than all of them. Genuinely. This guy literally made my career in one set. So this is the moment when I realized that dubstep could be a thing for me. I wrote a track called So Vexed, and if anyone's listening to this who's a dubstep fan, they'll probably remember it. It came out in 2010 on Circus, on vinyl, and it was kind of the track that kind of blew me up. The first level of the blow up was So Vexed. Chrissy Chris played it as his intro, and he was playing a set on primetime BBC Radio 1 at a festival with Harry Schotter on the mic. And he dropped So Vexed as his intro, and then the intro of So Vexed sounds like an alarm, like a fire alarm going sort of thing. When it dropped, the crowd went so crazy. It got 3 rewinds on radio. And I was like, what is going on? Like, my D&B this has never happened with my D&B. Like, what is happening? That moment was like, this could be a thing. This could actually be a thing for me. And then I wrote a few more tracks which are kind of banging, and then those got released. And I feel like the whole blow up of dubstep was a culmination of everything. So, like, for me, it was like perfect timing. Yeah. Because in a scene where a lot of it was very stripped back, a lot of it was very bouncy and very dark, there was kind of your main vibes were like the very deep stuff. So you're looking at the Digital Mystics, Malaguy's, Loafer, all that sort of stuff. You had Benga, who was doing sort of bouncy styles. Casper was doing the sort of the more angry bounce, and then Rusko was obviously doing the sort of perky stuff. There was really only a lot of those vibes around. There wasn't anything that was truly energetic until I found out about people like Bar 9, 16-bit. Joker was another one who I was interested to, and you might know Joker from Bristol days as well. Not sure.
I know. When you said the name, I'm thinking it rings a bell, and I can't.
He's written one of the biggest tracks in dubstep history called Tron. Okay. He's a Bristol guy. He's the main Bristol guy. But these tracks existed, and I didn't know they existed until I was playing some of my first gigs. But I think the main blow up for dubstep would have been around the birth of Circus Records that I'm on.
And, I was going to say, because again, forgive my naivety, but to my understanding, Circus is basically about as big as it gets in the world of dubstep.
To an extent, for sure.
And from what you just said, basically your first dubstep track was a Circus record. Is that right?
No, my first releases were on different labels. My first release was Gorilla Flex and Make Our Day, and those were on 420 Records from some random guy who owned a label on Load Media when they were a distribution for doing vinyl and stuff like that. And then I had a release on some other platforms. One of them was Prime Audio. They released another vinyl of mine with 3 tracks on it. And then I had another release, and then I think that's when Circus happened, and that happened through me knowing Dr. P when he was doing D&B as well, and he had the same thing as me. He was like, my dubstep's doing really well, what's going on? I guess I'll carry on. And then he made Circus, and he was like, starting the label, do you want to join it? And I went, sure, why not? And at that time, I'd spent all my time in D&B not getting paid by anyone, releasing. I've got 20 plus vinyls as DJ Dose, and I've been paid by 2 of them. Like, that's how crazy the D&B scene was.
That sounds familiar.
So when he came along and he was like, do you want to join the label? I was like, oh, it's just another D&B thing. Whatever, I'll join. But the blow up of Circus was so great, and I kind of went with that. Like, I've always said this, my whole career is an accident. Like, I fell into a scene that was on the rise, and my sound was completely unique for that time and more energetic, and we kind of Circus really pioneered a lot of that earlier sound before Skrillex started doing things, looking at Dub Police, Circus Records, early Never Say Die, people like that, and a lot of other labels which, if I haven't given you a shout out, I apologize, but there are so many labels that were really doing their part for the push of dubstep before Skrillex went kaboom, so it was kind of a combination of a lot of accidents, really.
Because I think certainly from an outsider perspective, and I know Skrillex wasn't the inventor of dubstep. I mean, like I clearly pointed out, coming from Bristol, there was early roots, fucking 10 years before Skrillex even existed. But it's, do you find that did that have an impact on you? Because I think I don't know. I guess how do you feel about the whole thing with Skrillex? Because I mean, do you know the guy personally?
Kind of. Not I don't know. I'm not like best friends with him, but I know him on a talking level. Yeah. Because I guess there's probably a lot, and not from you, and then this is what I'm maybe asking is, I guess there's probably huge amounts of jealousy in the scene for what he achieved with to an extent
dubstep, I suppose.
To an extent there's a lot of hate. I think there's a lot of love for him, but there's also a lot of hate because the blow up he brought to dubstep turned it from a genre to a steeple genre. You're talking steeple genres, so there's so many other genres which kind of come in and they disappear and they're not really a main genre. Dubstep became a main genre almost overnight. If you're talking house, drum and bass, jungle isn't a main genre, you could argue, really. Jungle is an amazing genre, but it's not a main genre. There is not a main...
I mean, weirdly, I think you'd probably label jungle as a subgenre of drum and bass, even though it was the wrong way around.
From it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Drum and bass clearly was a derivative of jungle, but you wouldn't put it that way around.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're talking the Premier League of genres, dubstep was not even on talking levels. It was conference at one point, and it went from that to League 3, League 2, League 1, Championship, and then Skrillex went Premier League, and that's it, and it's a main steeple. That's the love I have for Skrillex.
Those football references.
But like he turned it from a genre in the underground that was known by quite a few people to a random man in a taxi knows about this genre. That's kind of the level it got to.
Yeah.
And it was such a good thing for the genre, but it also, in a sense, killed the genre because it turned something that everyone could enjoy, like kids. And when you start bringing everyone into the mix, this is where you start alienating a lot of the scene, and that was the death of dubstep. It became, I knew the death of dubstep was about to happen because Britney Spears did a fucking dubstep track. This is how I know. Yeah, she did a track which had dubstep in the middle of it. Same with Justin Bieber as well.
No, I do remember that. Yeah, it was one of the middle bridges or something.
Yeah, it was middle bridge.
Suddenly breaks down into this dubstep thing.
So Justin Bieber was also one of the early guys to do it as well. But yeah, that Britney Spears, when that happened, I was like, this is it. This is literally it, dude. This is going to get murdered because the majors are going to hop on it now.
You're watching your own suicide note being written there.
As soon as the majors jump on it, it's going to die. You just know that's the case. The only genre that can survive any major is house. But even then, where is Disclosure right now?
Well, because
they were so
House
forefront.
Is an odd one though, because house in and of itself kind of isn't a genre anymore. It's some sort of pronoun before house. It's progressive house or deep house or
acid house, tech house,
acid house. It's all of these other bits of house, but house within itself kind of isn't really a thing anymore, I guess.
Yeah, but it's got such a strong infrastructure that it will never die, or if for me, it'll only ever blow up and stay in a solid curve. Like I don't feel like it's ever going to die. So. You know?
Yeah, I think it
has its own island, for God's sake. Like Ibiza is how we have. Where's the dubstep island? Where's drum and bass island? You know, like we don't have those things. House has its own freaking island. Yeah, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Like,
that's about it. I think
when you've got an entire fucking island dedicated to a genre, you're good. You know, like when you got someone like Carl Cox running Riot and still being one of the most forefront DJs on the planet for house. You're good. Like we don't have that in D&B. Andy C is the closest thing we've got, and he's still D&B, but he's still like my auntie wouldn't go to an Andy C concert. My auntie would go to Carl Cox. You know, there's that feeling of house being so accessible because of the simplicity of it. You know, you don't have to talk about the speed or how do I dance to this. Like house is just it's such a simple 4/4 beat that people can understand it instantaneously, and that's the drive of that genre. You know, like it's a tough one.
I see what you're saying. I think, possibly. It's kind of a weird one with house, certainly from an inside perspective of the house scene, because I see a lot of people quibbling over tiny little details. And
of course, that was every genre.
But in fairness, then usually someone will come in and go, "What the fuck are you arguing about? Who gives a shit?" You know, I don't care if it's 124 BPM or 126 BPM. It makes no fucking difference. You've got pitch control on your decks. Use it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We have the same thing with dubstep, really. I mean. A lot of dubstep started at 140. My first tracks in dubstep were 147 because it felt too slow at 140 going from drum and bass. Right. And now we're at 150 pretty much. 150 is the
I didn't know that.
The main. Yeah, that's the main thing. If you go and look at Beatport, you're looking at between 145 and 150 mainly for a lot of the tracks because 140 felt too slow. 145 was on its way. 150 felt better. But for me, different tracks feel different at different tempos, and I'm sure it's the same in house. And some tracks do feel good at 140, and some tracks do feel a bit sluggish at 140. So I think it's between 140 and 150 now. But that was a strange situation. I think it's the same thing with house, really. I think you know people sort of argue over like, why is this track 143? Why couldn't you make it 140 or 140? Like, it's a feeling, dude. Like we produced this track, and that's how it felt good. You know, we sped it up, felt wrong. We slowed it down, felt wrong. So. Yeah. For a few years, I made all of my tracks like 121 BPM. There's nothing else sat there, and I was like, "Fuck everyone else! I'm just gonna make it a random number, 123." So, are you still fundamentally a dubstep DJ producer now? Because you've spent the last however many years sort of doing more and more drum and bass again. Is that a conscious thing to move to drum and bass, or do you? No, I've always been drum and bass. I've always been drum and bass. That's my love. That's my first passion. I will always love drum and bass. If dubstep died, I'd be a drum and bass producer. It's just how it is.
Where are your fans on that though? Because I'm guessing, and again, I don't know the dubstep scene, so I'm going to guess that you made a fuck ton of fans doing dubstep, and are they okay with drum and bass? Like, is your drum and bass? Is there a good enough crossover?
Yeah, it's kind of tough because most of my dubstep audience are America. There's no getting away from that. Is there even a drum and bass scene in America? Yes, there is, but it's not prominent whatsoever. Like the main companies who run, say, EDC and things like that, they keep bringing drum and bass guys in. Subfocus, Dimension, and Wilkinson did a back-to-back at EDC. Right. To a big crowd and things like that. Because Pendulum had a big following over there, didn't they? I think. Yeah, but it's Pendulum. But then that was that was more like live band type. Yeah, Pendulum's a weird one because it's a musical dance floor thing that was new, and that kind of resonated to America because America didn't have anything. I think that's why dubstep blew up. I think Pendulum was the precursor to what happened when dubstep happened. Yeah, because I feel like that energetic electronic vibe that they had was what America was craving. They had nothing like that previous, really. And I think there's a big rock influence, isn't there, in the Pendulum thing, in musicality. Sure. Pendulum, there was a big rock band type presence in there. Musically, I think I could be wrong in that, but there definitely was. But I think that's the hold that America had. Yeah, and America have, let's face it, America own
the branding to 80s dad rock, don't they?
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that's a purely American thing. Like your Meatloaf and whatever else. Like
Kiss,
America owns
Poison,
that shit.
Yeah. It's a bit crazy.
And I feel like and I think that was one of the things that again, I hate to keep bringing up Skrillex, but I think that was one of the things that made that global appeal. Or
it was a whole
global. I mean American. Because he had that metal, again, musicality, I suppose. It was that heavy metal kind of riff style technique. He was basically playing guitar with Massive and FM8, wasn't he?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that was the hole that America had. You know, like I've been through my rebellious stage as a child. I discovered death metal when I was probably 13 or 14. Right. Watching Ace Ventura, when he went through the club and he was doing this, and Cannibal Corpse was playing. I remember thinking, what was that music? I need to find out, and I ended up being obsessed with death metal. That rebellious side of the young you when you're a teenager, when you're like F everything, like everyone makes me angry, my parents suck, and everything like that. When you have that drive to need a music to reflect you, it's usually emo music, which is angry and riff
emotional
music. Yeah. When you have dubstep, which is just coming, and then you add that metal emo vibe to it, which is what Skrillex became, and that's just what he liked. The look was rebellious. He had who the hell shaves the side of their head? True. You know, like, it's not. It makes no sense. You know, and everything that happened with Skrillex was so perfect that it was gonna blow up. Like it just was gonna blow up. He made better mixdowns than anyone else. As far as I don't know this, I don't know this for sure, but there was rumors that he's been in the studio with Noisia. I haven't confirmed this. So I know Noisia and I know Skrillex, and I've never asked him this, but there was rumors that he went into the studio with Noisia, and that kind of elevated his mixdowns from
what before his explosion,
before his rise. Yeah, so he went from early Skrillex to the blow up of Skrillex was kind of, I think. Everything together was just so crazy. The production was perfect. The music was rebellious. And everything that what he stood for was perfect for the blow up. You know, he's essentially like the Fortnite of dubstep. And if we're talking gaming, Fortnite, he was the Fortnite of dubstep, and everyone took it on. He was listened to in high school. He would probably would have been listened to from kids who were like 6 with an iPad in their hand. You know, things like that. Like he would have been the guy, and that's. It's a great thing it happened because, like I said before, it made it a staple. It made it a Premier League genre, but it also ultimately killed it at the same time to an extent. So, I don't know. I mean, if the ultimate question is the $1 million question is, what would dubstep be without Skrillex? Really? Because who in their right mind in any of this scene, if you could get the list of every single artist, prominent artist in dubstep, which one of these artists would step up and be the guy? Because no one else has made anything that's that universally recognizable. We had Magnetic Man. They were doing
nothing's been that accessible either. That's the other thing. Like
Skrillex was accessible, but it wasn't your straightforward cookie cutter radio music, was it? It was rebellious accessible.
Exactly.
No one does that in the music scene.
It broke all the rules, but at the same time developed its own formula. And
that's the point. But we had our commercial heads in dubstep. We had Magnetic Man. We had 3 of the biggest, most talented producers, Banger, Scream, and Artwork, making amazing commercial music. But that's all it was. That was that at Dax Spectrum, and we had the angrier dubstep like me and everyone else. And Dr. P was making cool dance floors. No one was stepping up to make that merge of I want to feel this way. Then it was almost like melancholic dubstep, but well produced. No one in the scene did that. Would dubstep be here without Skrillex? No, I would argue it wouldn't. It wouldn't be this big at all. It would be
I don't think
bigger than it was. It never would. But then the real question is, would it have got to a point and then died, or would it just keep doing this? Is the question.
Well, so do you know what? I think the best answer to that is to look at drum and bass, because I remember. Again, being a 90s raver and whatever, drum and bass and jungle was just part of. So I think I'm right in thinking you're 34. So
I'm 34. Yeah, and I grew up around jungle and drum and bass my whole life.
Yeah, so I'm sort of 5-6 years older than you, so I would have just been hitting the clubs 5-6 years before you, I guess.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think throughout the 90s, dance music was just dance music. Like people liked house, and we knew what house was, or techno, or jungle, or drum and bass, or certainly jungle. But I think, and hardcore as well back then. But it wasn't uncommon that for me, for example, I would have some DJ Slipmat cassettes, which was the
same.
happy hardcore vibe from say 92 to 96,
like Helter Skelter and Dreamscape and everything like that.
Yeah, so the whole sort of Vibe-alike package and all of that, they were just amazing.
Yeah, my mum has a lot of those.
But you'd have people like LSD who would do that crossover hardcore jungle kind of stuff, and I remember going to like loads of free parties and raves and whatever around that sort of mid to late 90s scene, and I don't remember anyone ever considering a genre. Like it didn't matter if the DJ was playing jungle or drum and bass or hardcore or house or techno.
It was rave scene, wasn't it?
It was just rave. It was
scene.
just music.
Yeah.
It was just dance music. That's what you did. You went and you danced, and no one was that fussy. Which I guess I sometimes feel like we're almost going full circle back into that. I don't know if you agree with that. But
no, not really, because we have people arguing over subgenres at the moment. Nothing is a collective anymore. EDM is the most collective term, and that's just for people who want to be ignorant, I think, at this point.
Yeah, so EDM's a weird one because, again, late 90s and the introduction of the internet and all of this, EDM was used as the generic term for just dance music, and that's how I kind of always understood it, until suddenly EDM, thank you America, made it a genre, and then all of a sudden EDM meant what I would have called electro at the time, and then that all kind of changed, and now when people mention EDM, I'm like, do you mean the genre, or do you mean
do you mean the cheesy big room music stuff, or do you mean literally electronic dance music, which is what it stands for? Do you mean the collective, or do you mean a certain music type? So that's the only thing that's a kind of a collective word, like rave. That's kind of our modern, unfortunately that's our modern rave word. But that we don't have. I think it's completely opposite. I think the full circle end of it is just the fact that maybe a lot of people are starting to open up more. I think it goes in waves. I think we noticed that in the scene that more people open up to more genres the older they get. It's natural. I did the same thing. I was purely death metal.
Maybe it's an age thing that I'm seeing more.
I think it's an age thing, because I think people, they open themselves up to different genres as they get older. And there's a lot of dubstep guys who swore dubstep, like on my Twitter, for instance, that will be like, I like DnB now, I like this, and I like that. And some people just disappear, and then I'll be playing, like I'm a gamer, I like gaming.
Yeah.
And I'll be playing a game, and someone will be like, are you the Funtcase from 2011? And I'm like, I mean, still going, but I know what you're saying.
I'm still alive.
And he's like, I used to listen to you in high school. And I'm like, mate, what happened? And he's like, I just didn't like it, I just moved on. Some people move on. Some people just grow music tastes.
Doesn't that hurt when you hear it?
Because it's a random guy. It's a random guy on PlayStation from 2011 who was in high school listening to dubstep because it was Skrillex, obviously, and then he found other artists through dubstep mixes, and then he went, I suddenly like house now, or I like DnB now. Some people grow their taste and make it into a big bubble of genres, and some people just move on genre to genre, don't they? So, and I can relate because I was wholly death metal, and then I moved to drum and bass, and my kind of death metal love was there, but kind of dwindled as I discovered more and more of drum and bass, and then dubstep happened. Never stopped loving drum and bass, by the way. It's my only listen pretty much at the moment.
Really?
Apart from a few old bands, I don't listen to dubstep. I listen to, sometimes I'll listen to Coldplay if I'm in the mood for it. Sometimes I listen to old Deftones, Korn, Slipknot, anything like that. But
do you know what? I don't listen to dance music.
Do you not? Yeah. See, I can't stand it because I know that I will get sick of it. I know that it will influence me. I'll make a track and I'll think, this is amazing. This sounds so good.
So that's
one
of my issues. Is then I compare myself to what I was listening to. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake,
Exactly.
And you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. You shouldn't be trying to be influenced by someone inside your own genre. And I always sort of advise upcoming producers and newbies, get your inspiration from a different genre. If you make, let's say, dubstep or drum and bass, then find an influence from a different genre. It could be classical, it could be reggae, it could be dub, it could be whatever, so I think I sort of I live by that as best as I can as well, where I sort of try and it's not that I try and not listen to my kind of music, but I just don't really listen to it. I don't pay much attention, to be honest. And I kind of feel like, but then I'm lucky that when I first got signed to Mousetrap, it was kind of off the back of me having switched off to the rest of the world and gone, do you know what? Fuck it. I'll just make some sounds that I like, and
I'll just do it. I like, and I'll just do whatever music.
I'll just do my thing, and I did my thing, and that ended up being a Mousetrap thing, and that became my thing, was just doing my thing. Do you know what I mean?
It's pretty much the same for me, but my intro to the production when I was learning is actually completely the opposite to you. I was actually copying my favorite artists.
Okay,
but I was copying in a way.
So I was at the beginning, definitely.
Yeah,
I was definitely trying to make stuff that sounded like whatever it was I liked at the time. Yeah. And I think that's great practice. I
think that's the same thing.
So I probably misspoke there. I would say when you're first beginning, by all means, copy whatever you want, whoever you like. Just train and train and train. And I think it's a great way of learning, just by copying someone else's sound and sort of working out how did they get that sound, But when it comes to actually releasing music, and I think this is where people go awry, is if you think of every time there's a new big artist, everybody tries to sort of replicate that sound, and I've always actually, funny enough, used Skrillex as the example, because he's the most recent thing that I'm aware of that just blew up globally in any part of rave culture. And the number of times I've had people sort of ask for tutorials on how to do a Skrillex bass line or whatever, and I've always sort of gone, well, look, we can go through the basics of how to do that bass line, but Skrillex has already done it, so by all means learn to do it, and then maybe amend it and change it and modify it and move on, evolve it over time. But it's kind of a weird one where by all means learn how these people make these sounds, but you got to remember, when it comes to releasing music, don't do that.
If someone's listening to your stuff for the first time and someone hears that you sound exactly like another artist, you're instantaneously disregarded. Instantaneously, they will never listen to anything you've done again, because they'll go, oh, it's just another copy. That's literally what will happen. If you think you're going to step into a scene with a release and go, I've got a release now, everyone's going to know about me. If everyone hears that one song and realizes that you sound exactly like Skrillex, you sound exactly like Sub Focus, for instance, they're instantly going to go, why, it's just another copy, and I'm not, why would I listen to that again?
And the best you'll ever be is second best to that artist.
Even if you blew up massive, you'll still be the guy that copied. You're still the guy that did that guy's sound. So you're never going to be your own monster as such.
And I think sort of similarly with the house scene, I think Deadmau5 was probably the most recent, or probably still. I know there were people like Avicii and stuff, and what's his name, the kid I can't remember the name of now, who's like 12. He's probably 20 something now, but
is it Madion? Is it Madion you're talking about?
No, although he was great.
He was another one as well. He was like 14 on Radio 1 going, I make EDM music.
God, I can't remember the kid's name now. The Dutch kid. He did that Animals track.
Martin Garrix.
Martin Garrix, yeah. By all accounts, lovely kid. I don't know the guy, never met him, but everybody sort of tried replicating that sound as soon as he sort of blew up, and similarly with Deadmau5, and in fact it's probably quite a good example with Deadmau5, because what Deadmau5 did was basically do trance melodies in a house genre, and that was his thing, and all of a sudden everybody did that. Similarly with Skrillex, he basically did metal music using dubstep sounds, and it was all that sort of cross genre stuff that made them who they are. And I think if you're ever going to just replicate that and try and release it, you're only ever going to be the best you're ever going to be is second best to them. Even if you became bigger than them, they're always going to remember you as the guy that did that sound. Exactly that. Yeah,
I think the appeal to people like Deadmau5 and the Skrillex is they made iconic music, and it's not because people enjoyed the music and it blew up. They made music that was just anyone. My nan could listen to some Deadmau5 tracks, and that is going to get like absolutely slammed in your brain for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
my nan will hear that; she'll remember that for the. It's that iconic sound, that iconic music that they made. Like that one sample in Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites. You can say the melody, everything like we all know that melody, but as soon as he goes, yes, oh my god, that is the bit that's going to stick. Even though everything in that track is almost perfect in terms of a track, that one sample is the thing that you're going to remember. It's iconic. It's all about what make iconic music. That's the thing. It's you will remember that even if you love or hate it. That's what makes a good track. So,
that's it. Yeah. So. You didn't really fully answer the question. I guess because you're saying you're fundamentally a drum and bass DJ producer.
Yes,
is that really where you're spending most of your time now, outside of the pandemic? I'm balanced between drum and bass and dubstep. I obviously make dubstep because it's my career. Yeah, and I still love doing it. My sound is slightly evolving at the moment. I'm doing, for some reason, lockdown has made me make more musical stuff. I'm not sure why that is. I've just enjoyed it. I like it.
I think the end of 2019, I released an EP, and there was a track on it called Without, and it was kind of my first proper dabble into a musical style of dubstep,
right?
Which I was genuinely nervous about, because I'd seen the artists who'd had really loyal angry dubstep sounds who'd made a musical one and been torn to shreds, and now I was nervous, dude, but I put it wasn't the main track on the EP. So it was like, it was track 3. So I was like, all right, cool.
You're testing the water with it.
Does it get noticed? Yeah. Will it die? Will people notice it? Will I lose a lot of my audience? Because I'd spent a lot of my career making the same style of music-ish, evolving over time, and getting a very loyal core audience. But was that about to be trounced on? Because I tried something musical, something different. The intro was literally like something that you'd listen to Adele, and the drop is just a musical dubstep drop.
Right.
But it's probably been taken on way better than I expected, and it's really blown up. It's got 1.5 million plays already in a year on Spotify. Nice. And people were just saying it's probably my best track, so I think that's kind of opened my brain up to me being able to touch on the more musical side safely, if anything.
Well, that's good.
But
and I know I feel like there are some genres in particular where your fans can be pretty fucking hardcore, locked into one thing, and you deviate from that for one split second and you just lose everyone, to
an extent. That was kind of always my fear, is that if I do start dabbling in the musical side, am I going to lose that loyal core audience? But I haven't. I don't know how. I just haven't. But I think it's because I'm not transitioning to only musical stuff. I think it's because they know that I'm going to still write, and I have been releasing a lot of angry dubstep. So
hey guys, I just thought I'd take this moment to let you know that this podcast is powered entirely by Patreon. So if you'd like to support the creation of more episodes like this one, then please head to patreon.com/Dom Kane, where you can access loads of goodies from sample packs to music downloads, and you'll even get exclusive access to episodes of this podcast before anyone else. So head to patreon.com/Dom Kane, and I'll see you there. Now on with the show.
But I just released a record label called DPMO Records, which is just kind of like the angry side of dubstep, the energetic, aggressive side. There's a lot of it, but there's a lot of really good underground artists out there which haven't seen release for some reason. Not sure why. I've missed out on a few, some anthems in dubstep I've missed out on, purely because I've tried to recommend them to Circus. And Circus going, I don't know. And then another label releases it, blown up, and I'm going, I told you! I told you this would happen! And they didn't listen to me. I got my own label now, and I'm kind of releasing my own stuff. But this it's almost like it split my personality into two, because now DPMO is going to be my angry dubstep part of my music, and my more musical stuff's going to come out on Circus. So now it's almost going to be a place where you know what you're going to get when you hear what comes out on Circus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Finds a home. So
I think that's probably a good way of doing it, because people can kind of choose to follow one outlet or the other if they so choose. That kind of makes sense.
I didn't want to. That was never my plan, but that's kind of how it's worked out at this point. Although that being said, I'll still do EPs on Circus, and I'll probably still put angry stuff on it. But
I think
my musical side has opened up, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, it's similar with, oddly enough, during the pandemic or during lockdown for the last... Well, I've been planning it since before that, but obviously I'm sort of probably more known as a Mousetrap artist, but have now launched my own label, 5302, and that's just for the really more laid-back electronica type stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so interestingly, that's kind of very similar to your thing, really.
Yeah. To touch on that question though, is that I'm not making more DnB than the other. For instance, I'm actually I kind of write DnB when I'm in the mood for it. But I do find personally myself, and I don't know why this is, I can write DnB all day long, no problem. Dubstep, I think because the evolution of like sound design being so technical in dubstep and the mixdowns getting a lot more tighter and everything like that, it's kind of made it less fun. It's become more of a science project than writing music, you know. So
yeah,
I think fair. My love for dubstep is always there, but the love to write it sometimes is a bit too plinky. Do this, do that perfectly. If it's not perfect, it doesn't work out, kind of thing. And it's DnB. I just write so easily. I don't know why it is, but
right. Do you think it's? Are you sure it's not in your head?
No, I'm pretty sure. No,
the mixdown. Like, so for example, if you made a track and you just did a don't give a shit mixdown, just fuck it, everything at 0 dB. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And put it out. Would people outside of critics and blogs and whoever the fuck else exists out there, outside of that, do you think people would care that much?
I think they would. I think people notice things. I do think people notice things. The thing is oh god, I hate this so much. We're going through a loudness war in dubstep right now, and it's getting worse and worse. And it's gotten to the point where, honestly, if you don't know about this, you're
loudness war. Like, but
we're talking almost in a sort of metaphorical sense, because when we start talking about luffs and all different types of loudness, which is based on sonics and everything like that. We're talking loud. We're not talking like volume, because obviously to a point it gets distorted. Literally, music is being distorted now. Like mixdowns are going. I am not joking. We're actually getting distorted mixdowns. It's honestly mind-boggling. I couldn't release any of that stuff. But we've got to a point where the loudness war is getting so aggressive. And I know as producers we can talk about what is a loudness war. But who's that producer on YouTube? The old guy with the long grey hair and the beard. I forget his name. He works with Waves a lot.
Pensado?
Yeah, Dave Pensado has touched on loudness. Actually, he's actually touched on what is loudness, and I think that what he talks about in an engineering sense compared to what dubstep thinks the loudness war is completely different. Like, they literally want the track to be as loud as humanly possible. And they will distort it. Like, dynamics go out the window at this point.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting argument, though, because I guess a friend of mine, Ian Shepherd. By the way, are you still there? Yeah, it's fine. Your audio cut out, my earpiece cut out.
Yeah, you stopped a little bit. But yeah.
All right. So I remember. So Ian Shepherd is a mastering engineer. A very good mastering engineer, and he used to, I think probably still does, run like I forget what it's called, and he'll hate me for that. I think it's like Loudness Awareness Day or something like that, every year, and it was all about just basically getting musicians and mostly mastering engineers and mix engineers to kind of, let's all agree to just stop the loudness war now, because we're losing detail in the music basically. And it's what's interesting is he's been sort of building VSTs and stuff that measure the loudness and give you good approximations, because of course again, you know, without reliving my entire engineering degree, but loudness kind of lives on different levels. You've got macro and micro and micro dynamics between moments and whatever, so there are different ways of measuring whatever, and LUFS is probably kind of the best we're going to get. But what I think is interesting is YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and there's probably a couple of other major players now, will automatically adjust the gain of your music anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter how loud you're making music.
Is it compression or is it just down? Is it gain?
They literally just turn it down. Because
that's what I've heard.
But it's about relative loudness.
Yeah.
So there was some compression, I think, and that was to do with if your music wasn't loud enough. But
right.
I think that's kind of irrelevant to us because in electronic music, your music's always loud enough. Basically, if it hits zero, it's loud enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think. There was a weird thing with YouTube. They might have had some weird compression because I know a couple of people who signed up to YouTube Premium, and they've ended up unsubscribing because they're like, I keep getting red lines on all the music I'm listening to. It's just horrific. Whereas I think for the vast majority of people, they just don't notice. But I think it's kind of interesting that you're now having this loudness war because it's like, well, yeah, but everyone else is turning it down, so there's just no point.
We've been going through it for a while, honestly, but it's getting more aggressive than ever to the point where there are artists who are releasing distorted music, like the kicks are being. I've been sent stems where the kick is literally being going. I mean, it's just. Everything is literally distorted. Like people will do digital distortion as long as it's hidden in a track, things like that. And it's like, it's getting a bit aggressive. They're willing to break all. I'm not a rules producer. I'm self-taught. I've never really ever really learned anything through anyone. I've always taught myself to. But I can't conform to the loudness war. Like I've released tracks which are quieter. But people have always gone, wow, your track sounds amazing when I turn it up in my car. Like, why does it sound so much better and I'm like, why do you think? Because my speaker isn't going, oh, when it's trying to play it. That's the point. It's like, we've had talks about, like the air in a mix under, say, 22 hertz and things like that. You told me like that, the science behind that, and that made sense. And I've always tried to apply things like that so that the speaker isn't going as much as possible.
Well,
when it's trying to play the track.
I've always sort of talked about, if you want to make your music louder, it's more often than not you need to be taking stuff away rather than adding stuff to it, and let's say, for example, you had, for example, an instrument that had some subharmonics at, say, 20 hertz. If you don't cut that 20 hertz out, first of all, no human is going to hear that 20 hertz. Second of all, no speaker, let alone a fucking iPhone or headphones or TV or whatever it is people listen to music on, is going to be able to replicate that 20 hertz bass line or whatever it is hidden away in there. However, every single item in the chain, whether it be your phone or the software or the computer or the hardware, the speakers or whatever, they're going to try and replicate that because the signal's in there, it's seeing it going, well, there's 20 hertz, I'm going to try and do 20 hertz for you, and meanwhile it's just losing the ability to produce 300, 400, 500, 1000 hertz, whatever. Your speaker's just shitting its own cone out, basically.
Exactly. And 20 hertz is like this, isn't it? It's just like the speaker's just kind of just wobbling back and forth in a slow sine wave.
The physical size of a 20 hertz wave is about 2.5, 3 meters. It's fucking huge.
It's ridiculous,
it's the size of a room.
But this is where the loud. I don't conform to the loudness one. A lot of my I will attempt loudness to a level. And as soon as I start hearing things like the limiter, like if I get to a point on limiter, for instance, where I'm turning up the threshold to get more gain out of it, as a balance, and then it doesn't do anything, I'll turn it down like half a dB, just so I know that there is still just a little bit of room, and it's not just flattening and brickwalling the whole thing. That might be. I might lose a little bit of energy out of a track, but as soon as I know that someone's going to crank that and it's going to be clean, like that's people have said, why is it so clean in the car compared to some tracks? And I'm like, because I haven't gone on the master and cranked the hell out of it, because your speaker goes, oh, this is all right, this is loud, but I can play it. It's like I
can do this.
There is a science to it, So I mean, I'll show you. I'll send you some links to some tracks, and you can hear how bad it's got. Honestly, because it's it's been going for years, but it's literally got worse because our music's got louder.
It just seems so
in
weird
in a sound. I don't know. I don't understand
it.
But I think it's because we have less engineers in our. We have more kids.
True.
And more young kids in our genre. We don't have engineers really, essentially in our genre. So
well, I think that's probably true for the whole music industry right now. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Is that again, back in my day, at the very beginning, you needed to have access to amazing computers, amazing outboard gear, and studios, and to release music, it was going to be on vinyl. You know, there wasn't really any other way of for dance music, at least. It had to go on vinyl. There wasn't anything else, because DJs didn't use CDs or whatever when I first started. So in order to put that on vinyl, you know, you were looking at thousands of pounds in cost just to get it pressed onto vinyl. So it didn't matter whether you were self-funding your own release or if you were signing to a label. But if you were signing to a label, or either way, really, you know, you had to have what I've always called the shit filter. You know, you really had to go, I'm about to drop 10 grand on this thing. Is it really worth it? You know, whereas right now you can go file, export, done. There you go. Yeah. Was it worth that? Spotify. Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. Piece of piss. Yeah, exactly. Upload to SoundCloud. There you go. It's done. Do you know what I mean? There's just no thought behind it. And don't get me wrong, I think that's a fantastic thing. And I think that, you know, if it wasn't for that, a lot of today's genres just wouldn't exist. You know, things like trap, you know, has kind of been born out of that. Well, I quite like dubstep. Well, I quite like house. Well, I quite like tropical. Well, I quite like this. I'm just going to mash it all together and see what happens. You know, and I think if you'd have had to have spent thousands of pounds in hiring a studio and an engineer and getting a record label to approve it and whatever, then these genres just wouldn't have existed. You know.
I totally agree. I think trap and Moonbaton. I don't know if you've ever heard of Moonbaton. So trap and Moonbaton, they kind of infiltrated dubstep at one point, and petered out quite quickly. There was a year and a half, 2 years of trap especially festival trap, big room trap, or whatever it is, that all existed. You know,
that there was. When was that? About 2013ish.
13, 14. It was the crossover to when dubstep was starting to die, and I think there was holes that they were trying to fill. That was kind of the decline was quite heavily around that time. So because that was when they came in.
I was running a sample library label at that time, and I remember working on some Moonbaton stuff with my flatmate, who was also running the label with me at the time, and he was still is a absolutely fucking amazing percussionist and multi-instrumentalist, and he could just throw these things down. And I remember he was always into these weird little quirky genres, and in fact he went to, I want to say Namibia, somewhere in Africa, just to try and sort of develop these new rhythms and drum beats and stuff, like the weirdo he is. But that was awesome. So bringing it down back to full circle to lockdown. So you got no gigs. How's 2021 looking?
I have gigs in the calendar, but they're on a sort of if things get better kind of vibe. Like I have bookings in America. Kind of lined up. I think it's 2 festivals or 1 festival, 1 drive-in or something like that. They've got loads of these weird shows where the DJ is miles away from the people in cars who have to stay in cars, or they're in these little
How do you feel about that?
Fences.
Like, don't get me wrong, and maybe it's easy for me to say, so I'm going to say this first. Money's money, and
for sure.
At the end of the day, we all need money. We need to pay our bills. So I get that, but without you shitting on your own gigs, which I'm not asking you to do, are you looking forward to that, or are you just a bit apprehensive? Or
I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I've had a lot of offers for shows, and I've turned them all down because they've not been of a proper social distanced or anything like that, because you have multiple things to think about. You have people who are cancelling DJs right now for playing shows in places. I'm not doing it because of that, but that is, you know, there is a whole infrastructure of shit going on right now, which you shouldn't be playing shows, obviously. So I haven't played any shows. I've had a lot of offers. We've turned them all down. My management called me up and said, we've got these offers, and we should probably take them because they are socially distanced in a sense. And I went, that's not good enough. So I've turned those down as well. So these shows are, a lot of these shows they're doing in America are, these festivals are not run the same. There's these things called drive-through. I think Insomniac are doing this thing called a mile drive or something like that, and it's literally a mile. Well, it's like a safari of EDM. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
They literally have a mile strip, and they sort of put loads of really cool stuff. So they'll have dancers for like the first 100 meters, and then the next one is like loads of zombies and that sort of stuff, and then you'll get to a point where you can stop and you can watch a DJ. And what they do is they make it so they have to park their car in a specific spot, and then they can get out. They have to either stay in their car or they can get out into this rectangle of this sort of these barriers they put around, and you have to stay in your barrier. But you can decorate it, you can dance and do everything you want, but you must not leave that barrier. And they're socially distanced, so they're kind of well done to that point, and it's outside. And it's a proper stage, proper sound system and that sort of stuff. And then they get back in their car and they all drive away. So those things I feel okay with, because I do feel like there are good measures being taken.
Yeah, and I think America, if anyone can do that properly, America can. And I think with culturally,
the amount of land we've got, definitely.
Well, absolutely, but also culturally, I think America is more game for a laugh than us. Do you know what I mean? Like I am so British, I can't even go to a fancy dress party. I can't do fancy dress because it's not me. I can't pretend to be someone else.
If you look like a penis, you won't do it. Kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't, and I hate myself for it, because I'm happy to self-mock. I'm happy to talk myself down to anyone. That's not a problem. It's not a pride thing. It's just I'm really uncomfortable pretending to be someone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I've been different though. I've been different. I've always been able to dress up. As I got older, that changed for sure.
Yeah, but I feel like Americans can do that. Like, if you look at the way Americans do Halloween, for example, that looks amazing. You guys are having so much fun. Yeah, I wish I could be that much fun. Do you know what I mean?
It's for kids where we live. It's for kids to knock on the door and go, "Can I have some chocolate?" You know, for them, it's literally a reason to get drunk and dress up and do all this cool stuff. So they always blow everything up. It's kind of well done, but
yeah. And so I feel like these shows with all the social distancing and stuff, I feel like if we were to do that in Britain, everyone's just going to be like, "Oh, well, I'm not doing that." No, if I can't go in this dark, dingy club and get absolutely shit-faced and be out till 6 o'clock in the morning, then I'm not doing it at all. Yeah. Whereas I feel like Americans, because I mean, America have the whole show thing, don't they? Where you can be done by midnight, you know, and they've had a good night out. And they sort of embrace that, so I feel like the whole social distancing concert thing kind of works for them culturally.
They can do it. Like I say, they've got the land to do it. We couldn't really do it in England. You know, I mean, where the fuck can you go where you can have an entire mile of this cool looking EDM safari and then just step up at a stage and watch a DJ play and then drive off? Where? And even tell me where. That doesn't exist.
We'd get it wrong as well.
Yeah,
you know,
it would be in a field. It would be muddy. It would be dirty.
Cold
there would be
raining.
so many problems. It'd be cold and raining. Exactly. There'd be so many issues with it. Like you just get all these mash heads going over the barriers and just doing what they want. But that's the difference between the UK and the US, which I get asked a lot between people in interviews and stuff. Is what the difference is. People in the UK, they get their head down and they dance all night, and that's it. They don't care what they look like. They don't care how they look. They don't care how they sound. They're sweating to death. They don't care how they're looking. They don't do pictures, like none of that stuff. Like there's maybe more the young generation, but America is like dress up, make it an occasion. A lot of the time, you know. To be fair, if anyone listening who is American, who goes to a lot of these underground raves and they don't do that, that still exists. So there's still people that go there and they don't care about the DJ and they don't care about meeting him and they don't care about having a flag with his name on and that sort of stuff. They still go there with the hoods up, head down, enjoy the night, and then go home and go and DJ, you know, and have a laugh and get some drinks in. That does still exist, but the main of America is to blow everything up out of proportion and make it a big thing. So that is a lot of the difference, really. But they still have that. They still have that thesis, and it kind of works with the whole. I mean, would you as let's say 22-year-old Dom gets invited to what was your flavor when you were 22?
How do you mean?
What was your favorite music when you were 22?
It would have been either probably just progressive house, actually. Yeah.
And who was your favorite DJ?
Oh God, when I was 22, probably Sander Kleinenberg, I guess.
Okay, let's say he's playing a show. Let's say any of those guys are playing a show, or they're both on the lineup, and you get the opportunity to drive to a place and stand in a rectangle of barriers and not leave it, to a stage that's about 100 meters away, not literally, but you know,
I think
to a stage that's really far away. Would you have done it though, or would it have been a bit weird? I
want to say that I would have done, but I'm not
the thing
sure.
about the whole Americans thing is that they will come there, they'll put flags down and they'll put scarves,
they'll embrace it.
All this
they'll embrace
decoration.
it. Yeah, they'll
that's
make
what I mean.
it
For us,
a good
it's
night.
just for us, we'll feel like we're being milked. You know, we feel like we're a cow stuck in this cage, and you can't enjoy it because it's not. We have this element of we want to be at a show doing what we do. We don't want to be restricted, and I think that's the issue with the British public is that's what kills a lot of what we do is our own feeling of restriction. Yeah, you know, which is kind of ties into the whole Corona thing. Really, is I can sit indoors. I'm fine, but there's a lot of people who are going, I'm not getting controlled by the government. No, who cares? Dude, sit indoors. Who cares? Like, just sit. Sit indoors. You know.
Yeah. How British people got through the Blitz, I'll never know.
Yeah, mate. It's a different time then, mate. Different time.
But apparently there were people. Apparently there were people who were like, I'm not putting blackout curtains in my house. I'm putting the lights on. It's a free country. And honestly, you think back and you're like, are you fucking serious? You know.
Oh, so you want to be bombed? Cool, man. Turn your lights on. See you later. See you later. Enjoy your night.
I'm moving. Yeah. Bye.
The thing is like, there's worse. We live in an age where we have the internet and we have Asda can deliver me anything I want. Literally, we live in an age where we can get anything we want. Yeah. These guys during the Blitzes had books. Like, just think about what level we're at right now. You can do everything you want to do. Yeah. Even in lockdown, you can still go outside, but just don't.
I live in an Amazon Prime area where I can get a delivery. I can order something on Amazon. Yeah, probably right now and get it by about 2-3 hours time.
Oh, okay. So you've got Prime now.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Now, I have it in America. Yeah, I've been delivered something in 33 minutes, and I'm like, this is insanity.
It's mental.
We live in an age where we don't even need to leave our house. I know people that need to go outside. I get it. I completely get it. Believe me, I'm not singling out anyone for wanting to leave their house and for having an outside life, like in the gym and going running and all that sort of stuff. We can still do that. By the way, we're not in lockdown like we were. It's different. That being said, like everything you ever need now is in your house. Like we have the internet, even on a basic level. Even if you do emails or you watch streaming, we can do all of this stuff. Yeah, and it's not that bad. Just stop pissing off the government. Stop resetting us. Every time we do a lockdown, we have a moment where the government goes, "Oh, we've still got all these deaths." Yeah. And we're like, Jesus, what's been going on? And it's because people don't want to do it, and so
And also, if you don't want to wear a mask because you don't want to do what the government tells you to do, that's okay. But still, wear a fucking mask because you don't want to kill people. That's a good enough reason. Don't do it because of the government. Do it because you're not a dick. Do you know what I mean?
Do it because that Sheila over there who's 92, who's wearing a mask and struggling to walk, do it because that you might possibly give it to her and kill her. Just don't be a dick. It's that simple. And it's not.
How hard is it?
I know some people would listen to that. Some people will go against it. They're just like, but what about just stop making excuses? Just do it. It's not going to last that long. If we all sat together and got this done together, this will be going away a lot. Dude, in China when it happened, and obviously I don't believe a lot of what China says, but when China first did it, they literally threw everyone indoors for 6 weeks.
Oh yeah,
and they disinfected the entire streets.
People in.
They went ape on it, but they have a life right now, and we're still arguing.
They're raving now
amongst each other
in Wuhan. They're having massive parties. And
they do claim a lot of stuff which I definitely don't believe. But that being said, they do have the ability to have a more normal life, and it's because they literally went, you're all dogs, go indoors, we're going to disinfect the streets. And it's like, it's so inhumane, but it got them through exactly what they needed to do.
And look at New Zealand.
And we've spent the whole time arguing about what we should and shouldn't do. That we got to a point where we're a fucking year in, and I still don't know. I'm still in lockdown right now, and I don't know if I can still get on a plane without being fucking, questioned where I'm allowed to get on that plane.
Well, it's only now they're talking about quarantining people on the way into the UK, and I'm like, have you not been doing that all this fucking time?
Have you not been watching this whole thing plan out in other countries? Like, it's just like, if you remember do you remember how bad Italy seemed? When we were watching them in lockdown, we were thinking, bloody hell, that's pretty insane. They're good. They're pretty good over there right now. They're not. It's not as bad as us. Like, we've got it pretty. We're with the worst deaths right now, and there's a reason for that. By the way,
you look at New Zealand and Australia.
If we all just sucked it up, we get through this. It's not hard. But
New Zealand took it to a whole new level where they just went, right, everyone stay at home. Here's $7,000. We'll sort it out. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, it's obviously a lot less complicated in New Zealand because there's less people.
It is.
They can shut their borders.
And I will say Yeah, and I will say for Australia as well. So a lot of people keep going, yeah, but we're just an island as well. Well, we're actually a group of islands for starters, so it's kind of a bit trickier. And also, let's not forget that mainland France is like 60 miles away. Well, it's 20 miles away from Dover. It's really not that far to cross the channel, and you can get there by train, plane, automobile, whatever. So it is different, where Australia really has kind of 3 places that will take a port, that you can enter Australia. There's only like 3 ways in, whereas Britain, you can enter pretty much anywhere in any part of the border, and it's all just there.
And don't forget,
I get it is different.
We're so completely surrounded by a lot of people. It takes like 5 hours to get from New York to London. That's not that far. Like 5 hours in Australia gets you like one fucking state.
Bournemouth to London is 3.5 hours on a bus.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's like we're packed in on a tiny island that anyone can get into.
Yeah,
it's a whole lot different when we have so many countries and so much more complexity in terms of who can come in and come out, because there are a lot of people that rely on our country, and we rely a lot on other countries. Australia and New Zealand are their own thing, and the closest thing they have is like Malaysia and Indonesia and places like that.
And they've got their own agriculture, their own food supply. They can kind of shut everything down, whereas if we shut our borders down, if we shut Dover down, then we starve, because we've just lost access to our own food supply. We don't grow our own food.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem we have. There's a lot more complexity with ours, and I think that's the problem with the government, where I can sympathise with them, and there is a reason why they're not doing certain things. I get it, but at the same time, they're being idiots. At the same time.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. So, it is a hugely complex issue, but unfortunately, we've got a government that couldn't even deal with a simple issue, let alone a complex one. So it's a bit of a shitter, but life does go on for at least the most of us. And then I guess that brings us on to the closing question of Brexit. What the fuck are we going to do with that as well? Because we're now going to have to start getting visas for Europe by the looks of it.
It's
pretty ridiculous.
It's a bit of a shit show. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to be like you have to pay thousands to go there for a year, like for England. For America, for instance, it's probably a few thousand to get a 1-year visa in America. I think it's roughly that. I mean, management do everything for me. I think
it's about
it costs a lot of money.
$1,000, I think, for the initial sort of setup and whatever.
So I don't think Europe will be like that. I think they will, because they will allow people in and out as much easily as they can do it now. It will just require a bit of paper, or you maybe need a bit form, maybe some money, sort of stuff. But
I think the issue is because we don't have an agreement with the EU, and it looks unlikely that we'll have an agreement with the EU for a single visa, because their response would be, oh, you want a blanket deal for the EU, do you? Well, join the fucking EU, which in fairness is kind of what they should be saying, because we had that deal. Do you know what I mean? We had a blanket deal with the EU. It was called being in the fucking union. God. To my understanding, they're basically saying, well, no, you're going to have to get your own deals with each of the 27 countries. So in which case it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for us musicians. So my guess is a few of the countries will probably just not bother. People like Switzerland, I guess, who are kind of half in the EU, half not in the EU. They're probably just going to go, whatever. Let's just strike a deal.
I played a show in Turkey. This is completely irrelevant. I played a show in Turkey a good while ago, maybe a good 5-6 years ago.
Right.
And they didn't tell us we needed any kind of visa when we came in. I got to the borders and they said you need a visa, and I went, right. What the hell? I didn't know about this. And they went, go over to that window and go pay a fee, a one-time fee.
Yeah.
And this was an on the moment fee to get into Turkey.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's probably what's going to happen for a while until we really sort this out. If they do finally have visas and entries, they will probably make you pay online or at a desk or something to allow you in for that one time.
I guess so. Yeah.
Which wouldn't be terrible, but we've had it so easy for so long where you can just go in and go out like it's nothing. Yeah. So it's going to suck, but I don't think it's going to be like America where it's going to be thousands to get in, because I think they need us as much as we need them.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think but I don't think they need us as much as we need them. I don't think
I don't think it's exactly balanced, but I do think they do need us in a certain way.
I think they want us definitely, and that's, I mean,
they use a lot of our country is used for learning English. I know that obviously you can do it anywhere, but a lot of students come here to learn English. You know, that's quite a common thing. So they do need us. We do have a lot of trade that they need, a lot of steel, things like that as well. So we do have enough need for them to not just go fuck that country.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So,
but I think
we'll be okay. But I do think it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, as small business people, namely musicians, I think it's just going to be a bit of a bumpy ride to start off with, because you know, I know that a lot of mates of mine, for example, will be in Germany one day and then France the next, and whatever.
Same,
and you know, that's kind of a casual deal, and you'll just jump on a train or a taxi or a plane or whatever it is and just go for it. I don't know how.
I think
it's hard to see at the minute because of the pandemic as well. We're sort of we can't even picture just traveling, let alone anything else on top.
I do think that I don't think the EU will set this up in a sort of you must speak to all of the countries and everything separate. I'm not sure that will be the case. I think they might do an EU visa. I think they might do that.
I would hope so.
I can't imagine they're going to stop you at every fucking border and go, "You English? Pay the visa." You know, like you can take trains from France to Germany and Holland and all that sort of stuff, like without going through any kind of border. So I can't imagine there would be anything where they would have to stop you at every point. They're going to, if they're going to do that, then they'd have to cut off every border. You can't just drive through every border, surely, and that's going to take years to set up. Yeah. So I don't think that's going to be the case. So I think it's going to be an EU visa, and I think it will probably be 100 maybe or something for the year, or a couple of hundred for the year or something like that. But,
I think where it becomes complicated is not so much the travel visa itself, but more the taxes that are involved with earning money. And I think that's one of the big issues. So, you know, for example, at the minute, I've started drinking alcohol since lockdown. I mean, I used to drink alcohol and obviously partied a lot in my early days, and then when I hit my late 20s, I was like, I'm bored of this, and I just stopped drinking.
Same.
And then last year, I kind of discovered there were a couple of beers that I like, alcohol-free beers that I liked, some craft ones. And then that kind of led me to go, I like this company, and try some alcoholic ones. And now I'm really big into my craft beer.
Is that right?
Yeah, 11% ridiculous beers and stuff. But so I'm in a couple of like Facebook groups and stuff that sort of follow the whole sort of craft beer scene, and you can do like subscriptions from companies in like Germany and Belgium and stuff who obviously make better beers, and it's like 60 quid a month, and you get a package delivered every month. I know they were all stung with 80 quid import taxes on their 60 quid package of beer a few weeks ago, all of a sudden. So they've all stopped selling to the UK now because there's nothing they can do, and vice versa. There's some of the British craft beer companies are having to stop sending stuff across to Europe. So I think you know, again, where if you do a gig in Germany, let's say, well, you technically earned the money in Germany, so you should be paying German taxes. When we were in the EU, you were paying, you know, our country had agreements in who paid the tax and whatever. Whereas now, technically, because there is no agreement, you have to be paying the German taxes in Germany, and in which case our taxes might suddenly become a nightmare. And you know, for me myself, I do my own taxes. I don't have an accountant to do it for me. So if I was then doing a couple of little tours once a year or whatever around Europe, there's no fucking way I'm going to come back and go, right, what's the tax rate in Germany? What's the tax rate in France? You know? Yeah,
I mean, for America, they've in the last I'd say 2 years, but the last tour I did at the end of 19 into the start of 2020, America changed a rule where they withhold the tax from the promoter of the show, because obviously it's state tax, isn't it? So what would happen is instead of before that, we would collect the money and then we'd pay a forget what it was, but they basically changed it where they withhold the money, and they withhold the money from every payment.
Right.
The promoter would have to do it. They would withhold all the money, and then when you submit your tax stuff at the end of the year, then they've collected all the withheld tax from these promoters, and then they take all the tax from it, and then give you back what you are owed from it.
Yeah.
So they would just take a certain amount, and then if you don't owe it, they go, okay, cool, you've still got $2,500. They go,
right.
So they would pay it back. I think there's a possibility they might maybe do a case of that in an infrastructure of paying each country would make more sense, because
I think that, but I mean that works in America because everyone does their own taxes in America.
Yeah.
Whereas I think because we're used to having things like VAT at the point of sale and whatever, it maybe complicates things a bit more. I don't know.
I think the whole thing's complicated anyway, us leaving the EU, but it's just I don't know if they're going to expect us to go through 35 countries of tax. Obviously that's not how many's in the EU, but it's just let's just say we go tour. I'll do something in South Africa one week, and then I'll go Finland another week, and then I don't think I'm sure they cannot be as naive as thinking that we're going to have to go through every single country of tax. Surely they can't put that kind of.
But this is the thing, though, isn't it? Is that unfortunately we have a government who really don't think of the smaller businesses and people like musicians and stuff like ourselves. And for the average suited up businessman, he's not earning money in France. He'll go to France for a meeting or whatever, but he's not actually physically earning his money in France. His British company in Britain are paying him his wages, and so he's going to be completely unaffected by any of this. Doesn't matter whether you pay tax in France or whatever. He's unaffected because he's not actually earning his money. He's just doing a meeting. So it's not the French company paying him directly. So it's only really at a corporate level it has a big impact, which is what they will have thought about, is, that British company imports something from France from that French company as a result of that meeting or whatever, and then the taxes are all worked out. Well, they're big corporate companies who have their own legal teams and accountants and whatever, and it all makes sense. And I think they just haven't thought about people like Dom, who lives in Manchester, who pops over to Amsterdam every October for ADE, and happens to maybe do a gig earning a bit of money, and maybe puts on an event earning a bit of money and pushing some promos or label stuff or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I just think they haven't thought that far down the line. So honestly, at the minute, nothing would surprise me.
But I don't think the EU wants to complicate their end as much as we want to complicate ours. I don't think the EU are going to expect we're going to come over and give all these countries their own taxes.
No, I don't think they want to, but equally I think there's a little bit of them that, and rightfully, wants to piss us off a bit.
Yeah,
because
I don't know though, but that's going to complicate it for themselves. I don't know if they're petty enough to do that,
because there's already other countries that have to do those things.
Yeah.
For them, the process is already there.
I don't think it's going to be that petty. I think they're going to want to try and keep it.
I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying. I just don't know if it's going to play out that way. I don't know if. I know they're obviously going to be angry about the situation.
Yeah.
As much as the people who want to remain, are angry as well. But I don't know if they're going to want to have to change a lot of their infrastructure just so that they can piss off the UK. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Yeah, I don't think they want to change their infrastructure, and that's why a deal was going to be the best answer for everyone. Because if we could get a deal, then those things would have all been answered, and there'd be a bit more red tape or whatever. But honestly, it wasn't going to be a game changer necessarily. But we've come out with no deal, and what the fuck does that mean? Like I've been seeing stuff for the last couple of years from HMRC telling me, prepare for Brexit. Is your business Brexit ready? And then you sort of go, well, what does that mean? And you look in and the
country's not Brexit ready
to find out
business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're like, well, what do I need to do to be Brexit ready? And their response is, don't know yet. Wait and see. But are you Brexit ready?
Cool. Yeah, I'm so ready. I'm so ready to know nothing. Like, cool. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm in deep hope of as a DJ. I mean, look, the amount of people that go on holiday to and from England to Europe is I cannot imagine they're going to try and make this insanely complicated, because there are so
I don't think
there'll
be a tourist visa thing. I don't think for holidays and stuff.
This is where it complicates stuff, because DJs could go on tourist visas. That just does happen. The people go to America.
And I'll be honest,
I've
not to America, but I've been to like Eastern Europe and the bloc and whatever, and I've done a load of gigs on a tourist visa there.
Yeah, I think I mean that's the problem, and I think they're going to tread a fine line there, where they're going to have to make things. They're going to have to hopefully not complicate their end and just give us simple visas with simple tax plans. Otherwise, they're going to start having people not paying taxes. Getting in on tourist visas, and it's the whole that's going to start. People are going to start going to jail. Are they really going to want to start doing this whole thing? Really, I don't know, dude. It's so complicated. So I'm glad I'm not a politician, but at the same time, God damn everyone who voted Brexit, because we didn't need it. We didn't need it.
The last thing we needed.
Who cares? Sovereignty and laws, like we don't. Come on.
I will never understand the vote for breakfast. I will never understand it. It never made any sense for me. Like I just couldn't ever think of, like, don't get me wrong, there were issues with the EU. I had issues with the EU.
1,000,000%.
There was way too much red tape. There were a whole bunch of stuff that were done badly and mismanaged and mishandled and whatever. But how the fuck are you going to change that when you're not even part of it? And even worse, do you think our Tory government could do a better job? Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I don't think any government could do a better job.
You've basically handed the power of these rules and regulations from a group of well-known leaders from a multitude of respectful countries to Boris fucking Johnson. You know,
even Theresa May.
Just,
of them. Even if I supported anyone in our government, even if I'm not anyone specifically, I don't really care about anyone. I just want someone who cares on my basis, which I feel like was Labour, but I don't know, to be honest, because they're all fucking shit, honestly. But that being said, like, I don't feel like we step into our own laws and make it better. Like, what laws do you really care about in England? And what do you genuinely care about enough to the point where you want us to redo it?
Yeah.
Like, the answer,
unfortunately, always comes down to immigrants and immigration, I find. Whenever I have that conversation with people, it always seems to just... And they will always go, I'm not racist, but... ... And, you know, we need more control on our borders, blah, blah, blah. And then you sort of... You know, and then they start talking about things like... Indians or whatever, and you're like, you do realize India's not in the EU,
not Europe.
Like, you do realize Brexit has zero fucking impact. If anything, it's encouraging more Indian people to come over, because they'll go, well, Brexit fucked it up for the Europeans, so let's all head over to Britain. Do you know what I mean?
The whole thing doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just not, the whole immigrants thing it's going to get worse, because they're going to the whole refugee thing and the whole asylum seeker thing is going to be all messed up, because suddenly, if it becomes this over the top, Europeans will be refugees and asylum seekers. It's going to be worse. You do realize you probably made your situation worse. Like, we don't have anything. I don't know of anything personally, and I'm ignorant because I want to be ignorant. I don't really care enough about politics and the laws. But, like, this, my main argument is, what is it that you care so much about in European law that you want to change that badly, that you want to get out of European law? The whole immigration system is not going to change. We're going to have our own laws, but it's going to be the same because we're smothered by countries.
I think unfortunately,
but it's going to make it more. It's going to make it more illegal in every sense. If they're going to change everything. That's
I think, unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to. I remember this must be 5 or 6 years ago. It was pre-Brexit vote. So it must have been, say, 2015, maybe 2016 at a push, which is when we voted for Brexit.
Yeah.
And I remember all the papers in Britain, front page headlines, the EU are controlling our vacuum cleaners. And that was the kind of big headline, was that they were controlling our vacuum cleaners. They won't let us have a vacuum cleaner over whatever it was, 1,000 watts or 1,200 watts of power. And they were all making this huge deal. And when you look into it, again, coming from an engineering background, you start to realize that it makes perfect sense, because wattage doesn't bear any relevance to suction power. Like,
yes,
you could have 1,000-watt vacuum cleaner that does fuck all, or you could have 1,000-watt vacuum cleaner that sucks out your entire family tree and your ancestry end up there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it bears no relevance to the wattage, and that's what the EU were coming down on, and they were basically saying, right, no more, because of course the vacuum cleaner companies were basically going, ours is 2,000 watts, well, ours is 3,000 watts, well, ours is 5,000, you know, and it was that sort of bragging power. So the EU basically came in and went, do you know what? You don't need that many watts. It doesn't need to be using that much electricity to suck up dirt off your carpet.
It's energy saving as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's all it was. And yet our newspapers just went ballistic with that. They won't let us have powerful vacuum cleaners anymore, you know. How dare they? They're controlling us in every way. And I think, you know, you throw in a decade of that over and over and over again, and people just grow up thinking that EU is bad, basically.
They're muzzling us for some reason, and it's just not the case.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anyone in their respective countries in the EU that are going, I really wish we had British laws.
No.
I really wish we lived this specific way. I've never felt like I needed anything changed from EU.
And the mad thing is we could still have our own laws anyway. The EU never really stopped us from having our own laws.
Yeah. They just had specific ones that were really imposed on us so that we could be a collective.
Yeah, and there were certainly some regulations or whatever, but they were all generally good regulations. I'm sure there were. I'm sure if you really dug deep enough, you could find a list of ones that were really stupid. I'm sure, but then again,
any law, anywhere, literally any law. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I understand. I do understand people that want there to have. We want to be our own thing, but it doesn't make anything better. That's the kind of the be and end all of it is. We may not do it better. We might be a lot worse, in fact. Yeah. You know, so. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
So I'm going to finish this up in a moment, but I feel like the elephant in the room probably needs to be asked. What's the green screen about? I've just sat here for about, 2 hours talking to you, and it's only sort of dawned on me that I should probably ask about that.
It's so my trade aside of making music is gaming. I've always been a gamer since I was much younger. Since my mum bought me a Super Nintendo when I was, 8 or something like that.
Nice.
I was obsessed with gaming. And I've always been a gamer my whole life. Like, when I'm not making music or chilling with my girlfriend or seeing family, I game. I'm a big gamer, huge gamer. So when the gig stopped, actually no, before the gig stopped, but when the gig stopped, this is when it's happened. I do Twitch streaming. So I do production, gaming, anything random really, like that sort of stuff. And that's paying the bills for me. Well, it's paying a chunk of the bills for me at the moment. So the green screen is just so that I've got no background basically. When I stream, this goes all black, and when I'm playing games, it literally is just the outside of me on the screen. It just looks a lot more clean, a lot more pro looking. So basically I was doing my Twitch for the last 2 years. Between touring, I would it was just one day I was just playing games and I was like, why don't I just turn a camera on and just do what I do, but with a camera on. It's kind of the same thing, and that's pretty much what happened. But I've always been an entertainer. I've always had a large personality, so I thought if I just throw that all in the mix, maybe I can blow my Twitch up. And I had this really core audience which joined me just before the lockdown, and then as soon as the gig stopped, I started doing Twitch. I do Twitch Monday to Friday now, and I've grown it massively. I went from I think 4,000 followers to 12,500 in a year.
Oh right.
And I have good numbers. I get good money from it, which just about keeps me afloat. You know, it doesn't destroy my bank. At least it's cut down a lot of what the outgoings are. So it's and that's basically that's what that's for.
So, do you do like set hours or what? Because I've never. This is the thing is So as much as I was born a nerd and I spent my childhood. I was a different kind of nerd, I guess. I was more into electronics, and I grew up in a very poor family. There were 8 of us in a 2-bed council house. So I got my first set of decks that I saved for by cutting neighbours' hedges and washing cars and whatever down the street. Got my first set of decks. They were Disco 2000, just the worst things you've ever seen. But I didn't give a shit. It was basically a plank of wood with 2 turntables stuck in, and someone had sort of bodged into pitch controls for the decks. But that was kind of my childhood, where other people were playing Sega Master System or whatever the latest and greatest thing was. I had a CB radio, and I'd get secondhand amps and speakers and stuff from the local paper and sort of fix them up and then sell them on and whatever. And that was kind of my hustle. So I never really got into the whole computer game thing. But and so as an adult, I mean, like I've played like Forza Horizon and I loved that, but that's about as far as it goes. I think I completed one game in my life, was Metal Gear Solid, the first one, I think, on
PS1.
Must have been PS1.
Yeah, PlayStation 1 was the first.
Yeah, it was PS1 because I bought that when the PS2 came out.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's about the only game I ever completed. So I guess I just don't know anything about the gaming thing. So people literally tune in to just watch you play games, basically.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, obviously there's a whole.
I mean, I get there's personality and stuff,
but with the whole gaming side of it, comes of people. It's kind of strange, like, to explain it to someone who doesn't know why it exists. It's kind of the same thing. Like I went to my friend's house in LA. And his child was watching a YouTube video of kids playing with dolls, and I was like, "Why doesn't she do the same thing?" And then I realized I do the same thing. I do the same thing. I'm a gamer, and people watch me game. But the difference,
my stepson watches people play games on YouTube constantly,
honestly,
and I'm like, that's just so weird. Like,
but here's where the thing goes. So like in there's a whole thing which I've kind of just worked out why it is. There's a streamer I watch who does slots. And there's people in chat saying like, why do we watch this guy? And he was
casino
literally slots, casino. So he would do online slots and things like that.
Oh, so online anyway, slots. So he's not even in a casino filming.
No, he's literally on a website doing
screen broadcasting.
Yeah, and he's made a ton of money doing it, and he's got like at the moment he's got like 700k in his balance, and he's just using that to gamble with. So he must have a lot more money. But it's the feeling of for someone like that guy, for instance, it's the feeling of watching someone else do what you wish you were doing. So like for instance, if a guy's playing a game on Twitch and you can't afford, you can enjoy that game through someone else, and there's something in that. But for someone like there's a streamer called Shroud. And he's widely regarded as one of the best. He's widely regarded as one of the best mouse and keyboard players in the world. Like he can literally flick, and he's from one head to another. It's honestly insane. But people watch him because it's entertaining to watch how he plays because you want to learn from him, but also the amazement of watching how good he is. And there's two different levels. There's people that, and by the way, Twitch is a whole infrastructure of art. Music, gaming, like there's everything on Twitch.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I think that's where I'm like, so I'm aware of the YouTube thing. I've been running my YouTube channel for I don't know 4 or 5 years, something like that. But it's really just intermittently, and 99.9% of it is me just doing AMAs, and I'll sort of upload them, ask me anything, and I'll upload it, sort of thing, the following week. But because of that, I do love YouTube, and I definitely consider myself a YouTube consumer. So I will subscribe. You know, again, I don't follow much music stuff, but I follow all of my other interests outside of music. So whether that be car racing or anything like that, you know, or flying drones and stuff like that. But I don't know if I. Well, no, I suppose I do. I do watch onboard footage of like Nürburgring and stuff. Yeah.
But you know what's massive on YouTube is I follow a lot of people who do a lot of restoration and stuff on like electronics. And like for instance, there's a guy who restores old PlayStations, like an old yellow PlayStation that won't work.
Yeah.
He'll just bring in a new laser, and then he'll show you how he recolors, gets it back to its original color, and there's like a 20-minute video of him just restoring like millions of views. Millions of views, and it's like it's the satisfaction of something being maintained back to its original state. People who actually want to learn how to do that sort of stuff, people who care about the electronic. I feel like maybe if you are that, if you do the electronics nerd style stuff, you could do electronic wiring and fixing and soldering and anything you do in terms of that sort of repair. If you want to be doing something else cool, then you could probably do that, honestly, because there is a massive market for it. I didn't realize, like, some of these videos I've been watching, I didn't realize the views on. I've just recently started getting into it's so weird, these guys in the jungle who dig up the floor and they make like insane houses and stuff like that.
I think I've seen one of those, like probably on Reddit, like it's narrowed down into a GIF or whatever. But there's like 10-minute videos, and these guys make a swimming pool outside of a villa they've built, and all they use is the mud. They make dyes out of like tree sap and like leaves and that sort of stuff. And it's honestly the most insane thing. But there's 65 million views on some of these videos. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Mental. I like that aspect of. So I came across an interview with, I can't remember why it came up, but I'd looked into YouTubers. This was a few years ago, and I'd looked into YouTube, so clearly the algorithm went, oh, you like YouTubers now, here's an interview with one. And I watched an interview with this guy who turned out to be Peter McKinnon. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or seen his channel, which is exactly how I was at the time. And I was watching an interview, and they were talking about, so you make your money from YouTube. And he was like, well, yeah, I do make some money from YouTube, but obviously a lot of it's endorsements and ads and this, that, and the other. And it's all the side hustle, the merch and whatever that goes with it. And I'm thinking, who is this guy? I've never fucking heard of him, And I'm thinking he's probably fairly small time, because I've never heard of him and I use YouTube. I've been to the YouTube. I know everything. So exactly, and it turned out he's got like 15 million subscribers or something ridiculous. And it was only when he sort of revealed that in the interview, I'm like, holy fuck, this entire world can exist where people go crazy over someone or something, and I've just never heard of it. Equally so with another one I found was Casey Neistat. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was an American vlogger, and I've always sort of avoided the vlog type YouTube thing, because 99% of it's just shite, basically.
It's rubbish,
But Casey Neistat, I would consider a proper filmmaker, even though he does kind of daily vlog stuff. They're just beautiful films condensed into 10 minutes, basically. And again, he had sort of 10-15 million subscribers and whatever, and this whole world exists where you can be famous for something so specific that only the people in that scene will have ever heard your name. And I kind of love that. I love it.
But YouTube is so much more grand than music. There's people who can, like, I didn't realize I would ever enjoy watching a man build a house out of leaves and mud. But it turns out I love it, and I'm obsessed with it right now. I'm also obsessed with how it's made videos right now as well, like Coca-Cola. How's that made? Things like that. And how is this pack of fig rolls made? Things like that. Like, I'm obsessed with that sort of stuff right now. But I go through waves. I've been through videos of like historic restorations and that sort of stuff.
I like abandoned houses as well on YouTube. People doing
I've
the
been
whole
through those
urbex stuff.
And there was another one as well. There was a guy who used to go to hotels around the world, like these weird hotels, and he would review them. There was a man who used to go to this place where it was like a hotel in Japan that would have capsules in, and everything in this capsule was what you needed in a hotel room.
Wow.
But it didn't cost as much money, so there would be a normal sized hotel room full of capsules. And you would stay in them, and they'd be completely soundproof. So you go in this capsule with loads of other people, but everything inside, like, it was... The world of YouTube is so grand. Like, people do not understand. Like,
it is,
And I think
is
Twitch
the same? So that's where I was kind of heading with it. Is Twitch like that, or
kind of? But obviously it's live, so it's different. But you can do reruns and do broadcasts and that sort of stuff. So you can do what you like. But there is a more gaming heavy vibe on it. But they are Twitch are now, I think, as far as I know, trying to build a bigger infrastructure in terms of the music side of the stuff. So as far as I know, So I've got a friend who does like bass housey sort of music called Jaws. And they gave him a backpack with a Wi-Fi router in it and a camera, And basically, all he has to do is just take that with him and have it on his back, and he can record him being behind backstage on shows and that sort of stuff, and get his tour manager just to film him while he's playing a set, and it's all live on Twitch. And they're trying to grow that sort of other side of it, because gaming is so big. Obviously, Ninja, and Dr. Disrespect, and Fortnite blowing up, and PUBG blowing up, all these different games and people blowing up, and those have got millions and millions of views and that sort of stuff. But the amount of money that you can generate out of it is so crazy, but it's so saturated that it's hard to find, a place for it. But again, this is why I come back to things like YouTube, for instance, for yourself. If you know how to do, electronic engineering and restoration and fixing, things like that, you might be able to find a place within that. I don't know too many places that do things in terms of like fixing hardware. For instance, like I've tried finding videos of how do I fix the LED on my Avocet Crane Song 2, things like that. That doesn't exist on YouTube, not as far as I could find anyway. Things like that. It's such a simple thing, like it's probably just a quick solder, but I'm an idiot and I want to know how to do it, and YouTube's my first place I go, so maybe there's something there for you, who knows.
Maybe I guess, I don't know, I kind of felt at one point like maybe YouTube was the way for me, and then as time goes by, I think I'm sort of the antithesis of YouTube as well. From this podcast we're filming right now, it's kind of very long format, and it's not really like, but I think that maybe is my niche. It's just going to take a fuck ton longer to kind of establish. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like YouTube is a good place for me to have some of my content, especially the
something
more
like this
tutorial type thing.
I know a lot of people that are very put off on YouTube by very long videos sometimes, like production videos. They want everything condensed and quick and down and edited. But that being said, there is a new feature on YouTube. I don't know how new it is, but I'm just back to get on it. I've been uploading all my production streams on Twitch onto YouTube, but you can now set up chapters. So you can have these little key points in the chat, and you can name them.
I've tried it, and it doesn't work yet for me. This was when I tried it, which was last year sometime, and it was a new feature, and they were saying we're introducing it to some accounts, and they weren't saying...
no, it definitely exists for everyone now, because I'm not a partner or anything. I've done it on my videos. So, you just type in the word chapters, and then you type numbers, and then it does it.
Because I did try it on one of my video, and it didn't do it, so I was like, I'm not doing that next time then.
It definitely works now for sure. It's definitely an infrastructure. So I think that might help bring people into what you like. We've got this section here where we've talked about anything from Brexit Twitch to music to dubstep to D&B, all that sort of stuff. So you can have all these little chapters. So that could help not alienate people from fucking definitely. Hell, 2 hours? What? I'm not sitting here for 2 hours listening to these guys moan.
Especially if you start talking about Brexit, because people will then go, is this 2 hours of people moaning about Brexit?
They just glaze over. They go, when's the next section? For sure.
Well, I reckon that concludes our show for the day.
Sounds good.
Mate, it's been a pleasure.
Yes. This is the first time we've had a proper speak, actually. I think beyond Facebook messaging and that sort of stuff. So
I think we've sort of sent each other the odd video message or voice message or text message or whatever. But
I don't even know how we met, by the way. Was it through computer music?
How would it have been through computer music?
I think tutorials. We've both done computer music tutorials. I think maybe I seem to remember
we were maybe... I've got...
There's no reason why a guy who makes trancey, housey stuff goes to an angry dubstep producer. There's no reason why we should connect, but I think computer music might have been the format.
It might well have been that. I've got a couple of magazines, and one of them in my head is green, and I think that might be computer music, and it's got the word dubstep on it, and it's got a photo of me.
Mine was yellow.
Okay.
Mine was yellow. Because I was the front DVD for one, which had a picture of Beethoven with these spirally glasses on or something.
Okay. Right.
I think that's what it was. Don't ask me. I was just the guy who did the DVD, but I think that was the one I did. So I don't know if it was that one specifically. But.
Yeah, I seem to remember we both did it around the same time.
Possible.
When was that? It must have been about 2010.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I added you on Twitter or something and said that I enjoyed your DVD, because I used to do that quite a few times.
Yeah, maybe it could have been. I honestly don't know. Yeah.
No idea.
A weird one. Well, that's
I was thinking
kind
that
of
earlier. I was like, how do I meet him? Like,
yeah, so that's one of the things with this industry, though, isn't it? Is you just kind of you just see names crop up all the time, don't you? And especially on things like Twitter and social media and whatever. You know, you'll see the same people get tagged in things time and time again, and you just assume, oh well, I guess he's in the same circle as me, and then you end up talking to that person, and then it just kind of goes on, and then 10, 11 years later, you go, how did we know each other?
Yeah. Pretty
And
much.
here we
I think
are.
the thing about music, though, is two wildly different genres can two guys that just pretty much have the same beliefs and same interests can go.
Yeah, definitely. Because I
cool.
remember probably one of our first conversations was about the fact that I think you were saying you didn't really use compressors or something.
Yeah.
And me going, what
definitely.
the fuck? But you do dubstep. How can you not use compressors?
Yeah, for sure.
Is that still true?
To an extent. I use compressors now, but for different reasons. I don't use them for probably a lot of people would expect me to use them for. Like people like, when you're around, you kick and snare off with a compressor. Nope. I do a lot of heavy transient boosting. Can't lie, but it's I use it for different reasons. I use it more for just setting buses more glued together, like tops and stuff like that. So that's what's
it's more of a mix process and a bus process than
It's
than
more
an
just
actual,
gluing everything a little
let's
bit
kill
better.
this
Yeah,
snare.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just that's probably pretty much all it was. But very minimalistic. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much. And that, I guess,
Been emotional.
ends the recording. Yeah, it has. It's been a roller coaster.
Most def.